Chapter 1003. With Du Xiaofu's current status and wealth in the ancient sky sect, as well as Sima Muhan, obtaining the energy gold talisman was naturally not a problem. When Du Xiaofu arrived at the ancient golden space early in the morning, he saw Sima Muhan, and the two of them entered the ancient golden space. The ancient sky sect had a total of 3 special spaces, namely the ancient golden space, the ancient silver space, and the ancient bronze space. The 3 spaces corresponded to the disciples of the ancient sky sect for 3 years. Within each space, there were various martial skills, talisman arrays, beast energy, secret techniques, and so on. Within the 3 spaces, the talisman arrays and secret techniques were of different difficulty levels. The most difficult one was naturally the ancient golden space. The energy gold talismans that entered the ancient golden space were also the most expensive. Once the energy gold talismans were used up, they would have to be earned again. Otherwise, they would be pushed out. The 3 spaces were all individually sealed small spaces. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength in talisman arrays, he could see more and more of their essence. However, Du Xiaofu also knew that with his current cultivation, he was far from being able to do so. This was enough to show the ancient sky sect's foundation. Within the ancient golden space, everything was as Du Xiaofu had imagined. There were insights, beast energy, secret techniques, cultivation experiences, and various cultivation explanations left behind by the ancient sky sect's ancestors everywhere. The level of understanding was higher than that of the ancient bronze space. Various martial skills and talisman arrays were engraved on huge jade stone tablets for all the disciples of the ancient sky sect to comprehend. This also attracted Du Xiaofu's attention, and he wanted to comprehend it. The place we're going is still ahead. Sima Muhan pulled Du Xiaofu, wanting to take Du Xiaofu to another place to comprehend. Alright, these secret techniques are vast. I'll comprehend them later. Du Xiaofu was a little reluctant. The ancient golden space in the ancient sky sect was definitely different. Following Sima Muhan, Du Xiaofu saw some familiar figures along the way. There were even many elders and protectors in the ancient golden space. Some of them were comprehending martial skills, while others were comprehending beast energy. There were also people who were immersed in the various cultivation experiences of the ancient sky sect's ancestors, and did not pay attention to others. Everyone was immersed in their own world, they were comprehending and cultivating. There's something familiar. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu felt a sense of familiarity. It was not but a feeling, it was a strange feeling, it was a strange feeling. We've arrived. Sima Muhan said in the Du Xiaofu in front of an empty valley. This was the depths of the ancient golden space, as if they had reached the edge of this space. There was nothing around him, only a vast expanse of land. Bright Saint bright sword plays dragon sword world. Du Xiaofu could not help but feel suspicious. The surroundings were empty, and there was no place to comprehend anything, except for a strange, familiar aura. Could it be that the ancient sky sect's ancestor comprehended the Bright Saint sword manual here? Du Xiaofu was a little suspicious. However, the strange aura at this time seemed to be related to the Bright Saint sword manual, and also to him. There's a small space here. There aren't many people in the world who know about this place. This is the most secret place in the ancient sky sect. Sima Muhan pursed her lips. She formed a seal in her hand, and then an object appeared, turning into a talisman that flew out secretly. Finally, a spatial entrance opened in front of the valley. A beautiful figure flashed in, and a voice sounded, "Come in quickly." This is the place where the ancestor comprehended the Bright Saint sword manual. Du Xiaofu heard this and immediately flew in. Then, the spatial entrance's ripples slowly disappeared. Everything in the space was normal. The aura was ancient, and it was not very wide. There was nothing around. In the center of the space, there was a mountain. This mountain seemed to be barren, as if it was a land of death. In this space, the mountaintop appeared to be completely dried up. Half of a stone tablet stood on top of the sand and rocks, while the other half was buried in the barren mountain. The stone tablet was not small, and the exposed part was dozens of feet high. It was modeled, as if it came from ancient times and had existed for countless years. There were many small, intricate cracks on it. When Du Xiaofu saw the stone tablet on the barren mountain, his body trembled. His clear pupils shrank slightly, just like when his master, Gu Qingyang, saw the purple lightning profound cauldron. No one knows how long this stone tablet has existed. Even now, no one in the ancient heaven sect knows how long this stone tablet has existed. This stone tablet has existed since the ancestors of the ancient heaven sect. It is a treasure. Rumor has it that anyone who can truly comprehend it will be able to obtain a great divine ability. Sima Muhan looked at Du Xiaofu's expression. There was some surprise in her light purple eyes. She said, "It's just that for a long time, no one has been able to comprehend it completely. Only the senior in the Manchu back then comprehended the bright saint sword manual from this stone tablet. This proves that this stone tablet is indeed a treasure. I came here in hopes of making progress in the way of the sword. This is the second stone tablet. It's something that can only be found by chance." Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed, and then he smiled. The stone tablet before him was exactly the same as the stone tablet on the barren mountain in the Du family's residence. That stone tablet contained a vast and mysterious technique. This was the second stone tablet. When Du Xiaofu comprehended the mysterious technique, he felt that there would be a second technique. However, he couldn't find the second technique in the broken stone tablet, so he had no choice but to give up. Looking at the stone tablet, Du Xiaofu smiled. His feet touched the ground, and his figure suddenly flew out and landed lightly in front of the stone tablet. Du Xiaofu even forgot that Sima Muhan was beside him. He stood directly in front of the stone tablet and stared at it without blinking. "What the hell?" Sima Muhan looked at Du Xiaofu's back and muttered. Then she landed behind Du Xiaofu. Seeing that Du Xiaofu seemed to have comprehended something, Sima Muhan didn't disturb him. However, Sima Muhan felt strange. Was this stone tablet really a treasure? According to the Manchues records, no one in the ancient heaven sect was interested in this stone tablet. Although it was rumored that this stone tablet was a treasure that contained a great ability, no one paid attention to it. In the past, there were experts who checked the stone tablet. It was an ordinary stone tablet that couldn't be any more ordinary. There was nothing special about it. If it wasn't for the fact that the Manchu thought that an expert with great talent had comprehended the extraordinary bright saint sword manual from the stone tablet, it would have attracted the attention of the ancient heaven sect again. Otherwise, this stone tablet would have been forgotten long ago. Does it really contain a great ability? Sima Muhan muttered. Then she followed Du Xiaofu's actions and carefully looked at the ancient stone tablet, hoping to comprehend something. However, time passed slowly. Aside from some mottled marks on the stone tablet, it was completely an ordinary stone tablet. Sima Muhan really couldn't comprehend anything. A few days later, Sima Muhan, who was on the verge of collapse, secretly looked at the purple-robed young man beside her. He actually maintained the same posture for several days without moving, which surprised Sima Muhan. Humph. Sima Muhan pouted slightly. She was somewhat unwilling to admit defeat. That guy seemed to have comprehended something. How could she be weaker than him? Did he really comprehend something? After 7 days, Sima Muhan really couldn't endure it anymore. She couldn't comprehend anything at all, but the purple-robed young man beside her didn't move for 7 days. I don't believe it. Sima Muhan secretly stomped her feet and gritted her teeth. She continued to persevere, looking for any possible clues on the stone tablet. She couldn't wait to smash the stone tablet and search for it. After another 3 days, Sima Muhan's beautiful face looked very ugly. She really couldn't endure it anymore. This can't contain a great ability. Sima Muhan's face was helpless. She felt like an idiot. She stood in front of an ordinary stone tablet without moving for 10 days and didn't even know what she was doing. On the contrary, the fellow beside him seemed to have realized something. Take your time to comprehend it. I'll leave first. Slightly pouting, Sima Muhan gave up and turned to leave. Then, Sima Muhan thought of something. She put all the energy gold talismans on her body into Du Xiaofu's body and turned to leave angrily. Chapter 1004. Time passed slowly in this space. Du Xiaofu maintained the same posture. It was as if he had returned to the Du family in Stone City, making others look like a fool. After an unknown amount of time, the golden energy talismans on Du Xiaofu's body became fewer and fewer. His figure finally changed his posture and began to sit cross-legged. His eyes were slightly closed on his resolute face, and his thick eyebrows were like swords. The devil religion has appeared. What is their intention? The afterglow of the setting sun shrouded the mountains. In front of the main hall of the ancient heaven sect, Sima Ta-Xing looked at the sky in front of him. His glassy eyes flickered with the color of the setting sun. Sect Master, the devil religion seems to have been collecting spirit thunder. Xiahou Fenglei has the 3,000 repelling thunder. Although he suffered a heavy blow this time, I'm afraid he won't let this matter go. Protector Hao said. Even if the devil religion won't let this matter go, they have suffered a heavy blow this time. In addition, GMO has broken through the Nirvana realm and entered the martial domain. The devil religion has to be wary of other forces. I'm afraid they won't make any big moves in a short time. Sima Ta-Xing frowned slightly and said softly, the devil religion has been hiding for a long time, but now they have appeared. The sealed ancient land of the central continent has appeared, and rumor has it that the other 8 continents are not peaceful. The last time I went there, I received some news that there may be great chaos in this world. Great chaos. Protector Hao's eyes turned solemn. How is that kid now? Sima Ta-Xing suddenly turned and asked Protector Hao. He's still there. Protector Hao's eyes were a little surprised. He replied to Sima Ta-Xing, it has been 3 months. Sima Ta-Xing's eyes flickered when he heard this. He said softly, it has been 3 months. Except for that ancestor in the Manchu, no one has been able to last 3 months. Could it be that the kid has really comprehended something? Time was still passing. The liveliness in the sealed ancient land outside the Divine Thunder Mountain range finally calmed down. The entire sealed ancient land had been turned upside down. They were just short of digging 3 feet into the ground. Although some people gained benefits, most of them returned disappointed. Not many people knew that the Divine Thunder Cauldron had already fallen into Du Xiaofu's hands. Most of the treasures in the sealed ancient land had fallen into the hands of the Phantom, the Beast Killer, the Blood Vine Killer, and Hun Xie. In the end, they had all fallen into the hands of Du Xiaofu. It's been half a year. Why hasn't that guy come out yet? Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Inside the ancient heaven sect, Sima Ta-Xing was puzzled and his eyes were shining. I've already gone to take a look. He seems to have comprehended something. Even I don't dare to stay in that space. Dharma Protector Hao's eyes were filled with astonishment. He went into the space and saw the young man in the purple robe standing in front of the stone stele. There was no aura around him, as if he were an old monk meditating, or perhaps he had already passed away. However, it was so silent. An invisible aura spread through the air, making him not dare to stay any longer. It was as if the aura could tear his body apart. What did he comprehend? Hearing this, Sima Ta-Xing asked in surprise. He knew Protector Hao's cultivation. Sword. It's a sword intent. A terrifying sword intent. The shock in Protector Hao's eyes grew stronger. The sword intent in that space was too terrifying. The sword intent was so domineering that it seemed to have formed a space of its own. As soon as he got close, he had to retreat. Time passed, and the central continent returned to its former peace. The name of the demon king, Du Xiaofu, had already spread throughout the central continent. There had been no news of the demon king, Du Xiaofu, for more than a year. People had started to investigate, but no one knew where Du Xiaofu had gone. In the spirit domain, the 7-star hall was growing stronger and stronger. As the weapon venerable and the 9 lives venerable, GMO, reappeared, they began to openly recruit outside. For a time, it attracted many wandering cultivators and small and medium-sized forces. The movement made the 9 major forces watch. As for the Divine Light Court, under the purge of the 7-star hall, their territories were swept away. However, no more experts appeared, allowing the 7-star hall to sweep away all the territories. The territories of no less than 20 empires all fell into the hands of the 7-star hall. Among them, there were many who took advantage of the situation. It was said that the Sky Snake sect and many other forces took the opportunity to gain a lot of benefits from the Divine Light Court. As for the Divine Light Court Xinguang Heavenly Venerable, he just hid in his lair and never appeared. However, the experts of the 7-star hall did not go to the Divine Light Court's lair either. But all the major forces in the central continent knew that the Divine Light Court had been completely destroyed. If it were not for the devil religion, it would have been completely destroyed by the 7-star hall. In the dark forest, more than a year had passed, it was also a mess. With the fall of the Stone Dragon Empire's Qing family, the desolate country's Du family did not plan to take over the Stone Dragon Empire. Some of the surrounding empires were eager to take over the Stone Dragon Empire. Even the Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires that had been attacked at their doorstep took the opportunity to counterattack. In the end, many of the surrounding empires could not stand it anymore and attacked the Stone Dragon Empire. After the war between the Stone Dragon Empire and the desolate country, as well as the war with the Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires, some of the major cities had not completely recovered and were already riddled with holes. At this time, it was impossible for them to stop the allied forces of the many empires. It had been more than half a year, and the Stone Dragon Empire was filled with smoke. Countless people had lost their homes and there were corpses everywhere. Countless major cities were covered in blood. The huge Stone Dragon Empire had been divided into 3 parts by the various empires. The few old kings who had come out at this time were unable to stop the footsteps of the surrounding empires. Moreover, everyone knew that behind the various empires, there were traces of several of the 9 great forces. It could be said that if those empires were not afraid of the desolate country's intervention, they would have already swept all the way to Dragon City. Countless refugees from the Stone Dragon Empire rushed to the desolate country to seek shelter and were accepted by the desolate country. However, the desolate country was soon overcrowded. Vice President, our desolate country is already overcrowded. We can't fit in the dark forest anymore. Li Shui said to Du Yunlong in the main hall of the Stone City's Du family. We can't just ignore them. We'll try our best to take care of as much as we can. Prepare food and clean water for the refugees. We must take good care of the elderly, women, and children. Du Yunlong spoke, his sharp eyes filled with determination. Yunlong has matured. With Xiaofu in charge of external affairs and him in charge of internal affairs, our Du family will not fall. Du Zhenwu said to Du Zhixiong in the main hall. His eyes were filled with gratification. The younger generation of the Du family were all extraordinary. When they saw this, they were overjoyed. Vice President, the North Vanquishing Monarch, the South Vanquishing Monarch, and the East Vanquishing Monarch have sent people 3 times. They want us to send troops to help. Li Shui continued, within the Stone Dragon Empire, countless refugees have come praying. They want to see the Rock Emperor and hope that the Rock Emperor will send troops to save the Stone Dragon Empire. This is the 3rd time that the 3 old Wangs have sent people here. They have a special relationship with Xiaofu, Du Zhenwu said. The Stone Dragon Empire is now flowing with rivers of blood and countless refugees. We, old master, we have nothing to do with the Stone Dragon Empire. I don't agree with sending troops. Murong Yorua said. She had always opposed the desolate country sending troops. She had even refused the three monarchs' request. Miss Murong, the three monarchs have asked for help 3 times. Countless people have suffered. Moreover, the three monarchs mentioned in their letters that regardless of whether Xiaofu agrees or not, Xiaofu is now the emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Xiaofu is angry and wants to avoid the Stone Dragon Empire. However, I'm afraid he won't have the heart to see the Stone Dragon Empire run wild. Our Stone City's debt is the Qing family, not the countless people of the Stone Dragon Empire. Du Junwu couldn't bear it. The Stone Dragon Empire was filled with refugees. The three monarchs had asked for help 3 times and countless refugees had come to pray. He wasn't hard-hearted and couldn't bear it. If third brother was here, he wouldn't have the heart to see the Stone Dragon Empire run wild. Even when we went to Dragon City, third brother couldn't bear to attack the civilians. Du Xiaoman said. She knew third brother's personality. Although he was domineering, that was only towards his enemies. What do you all think? Perhaps we can do something to help. At least, we can protect several cities and give the refugees a place to live. An old man from the Du family spoke. He couldn't bear to see the Stone Dragon Empire run wild. After all, Stone City and the Stone Dragon Empire had an unclear relationship. Chapter 1005. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. In the main hall, the experts from the World Society and the Celestial Beast Hall looked at each other in silence. Du Yunlong didn't say anything either. He seemed to be pondering something in his sharp eyes. Do you really have the heart to see wails and cries everywhere? Everyone, go outside and take a look. How many people are in terrible states? How many have lost their homes? How many have lost their families? How many are crying everywhere? This is a great suffering. An old woman from the Du family continued to speak. Looking at the experts in the main hall, she said, you all have the ability now. No matter what the reason is, even if you can only protect some people, it's good enough. Everyone in the main hall heard this. This was an elder from the Du family who rarely spoke. They knew she was kind. What she said made sense. At this moment, there were people in terrible states everywhere in the Stone Dragon Empire. Even the Absolute Sword King and the others, who were ruthless in killing, could not bear to see such a disaster. This was because they weren't attacking the enemy. Most of the people who were bleeding were civilians. There were even old, weak, women, and children. Yunlong, little man, please say something. We'll do what we can. That's good too. A silver-haired old woman from the Du family looked at Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman. She hoped the desolate country would intervene and at least protect some of the civilians. Why don't we take down the Lonling prefecture and shelter the refugees? This way, we'll be doing our duty, someone from the World Society said softly. Why don't? Du Xiaoman opened her mouth, as if to agree. General, Gu Xinyan, Gua Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, and Gui Hua have already gone to help. They are from the Stone Dragon Empire. I have nothing to say, Murong Yorua interrupted Du Xiaoman and said to the crowd, but as long as they are from the World Society, I don't agree to intervene. Miss Murong, I know that you will do your best for the world. You have sacrificed a lot for the desolate country, and I thank you for that. But look outside. You can't be so cruel. If you really don't agree, then let's have a vote. The silver-haired old woman of the Du family looked at Murong Yorua, then said to the people in the hall, are you really not going to care? Yunlong, Xiaoman, Zhenwu, Jixiong, you are all members of the Du family. The Du family has a rule. A family that accumulates kindness will have more to celebrate, and a family that accumulates evil will have more to suffer. Do you still remember? Even if Xiaofu is here today, I will definitely ask him to protect the refugees. Otherwise, this old woman will die here today. Great-grandmother, Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong turned pale. Du Zhenwu and Du Zhixiong stood up. That old man had the same status as the head elder of the Du family. Sister Yorua, what do you think? Du Xiaoman looked at Murong Yorua. In terms of age, she was older than Murong Yorua. I don't agree. Murong Yorua looked determined and did not waver. Little girl, how can you be so cold-hearted? The old woman said angrily. Murong Yorua looked at the old woman. She did not speak, but her expression was still determined. I support Sister Yorua. Li Shui looked around, then her red lips curled up. She supported Murong Yorua. I also support Miss Murong. Du Yunlong's eyes were filled with determination. Take great-grandmother away to rest and take good care of her, Murong Yorua said. The meaning of her words was clear. Everyone understood what she meant by taking good care of her. It was equivalent to putting her under house arrest to prevent any accidents from happening to her. Great-grandmother, I will take you away to rest. Leave the rest to us. A younger generation of the Du family stepped forward. Under Du Yunlong's nod, they forcibly led the old woman away. You are really heartless and cold-hearted. Little girl Murong, this is the Du family's matter. Why are you interfering in our Du family's matter? Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, Yunlong, Xiaoman, you have disappointed me, the old woman said angrily, but she was then led away by the younger generation of the Du family. Many people in the hall looked at each other. Looking at the people in the hall, Murong Yorua stood up and said, if you listen to me, no one will interfere. If you don't, I can leave at any time. Murong Yorua said to Li Shui, inform the three old kings that we will not interfere. If they are willing to come to the World Summit and the barren country, we will welcome them. The Rock Emperor should also hope that they can come to the barren country at this time. I will do it now. Li Shui nodded and left. I will stop this. If the president blames us in the future, I will bear all the consequences. Murong Yorua turned and said to the people in the hall. Then, she also turned and left. Time continued to pass quietly. Since Du Xiaofu had entered the small space within the ancient golden space, a full year and 2 months had already passed. During this year and 2 months, the ancient heaven sect was as peaceful as ever. In the spirit realm, the devil religion did not take revenge on the 7-star hall. The 7-star hall was also recruiting and recuperating. Crack crack, a sound came from the deepest part of the ancient golden space. What's going on? A crack had appeared in a small space. The dazzling rune fluctuations attracted the attention of many people in the ancient golden space. In the small space, Du Xiaofu was still meditating in front of the stone tablet on the barren mountain. His eyes were closed, and there was no sound around him. It was as if he had passed away. But at this time, Du Xiaofu's golden energy talisman seemed to have run out and was about to be pushed out of this space. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was immersed in a certain state. It was as if the space around the barren mountain had merged with him. This ancient golden space was trying to push Du Xiaofu out. It was pushing out the entire barren mountain, including the stone tablet. Crash, the golden energy talisman finally ran out. There was an invisible and irresistible force in this space that directly pushed out the entire barren mountain. What's going on? At this time, many of the ancient heaven sect's elders, protectors, and disciples were surprised. A barren mountain had appeared out of thin air. What was even more surprising was that Du Xiaofu was sitting cross-legged in front of the stone tablet on the barren mountain. The barren mountain was once again pushed out by the invisible force of the ancient golden space. Under everyone's shocked gazes, it was finally pushed out. Boom, early in the morning, the peaceful ancient heaven sect shook. Outside the ancient golden space, a barren mountain appeared out of thin air and finally landed on top of 2 mountain peaks. It was a shocking scene. But then everything returned to normal. There was no aura fluctuation in the surroundings. It was just a barren mountain that appeared on top of two towering mountain peaks. There was an ancient stone tablet on the barren mountain, and a purple-robed youth was sitting cross-legged in front of it. Swoosh, swoosh. The commotion just now attracted the attention of the ancient heaven sex experts. Then, some figures appeared, and their gazes fell on the barren mountain that appeared out of thin air. For many people, and even for the ancient heaven sex elders, there were only a few who knew about the existence of the stone tablet. Therefore, many figures appeared and looked at the barren mountain that appeared out of thin air with strange expressions. What's going on? Why is Martial Uncle Do there? Why did a barren mountain suddenly appear? Is it related to Martial Uncle Do? Is Martial Uncle Do trying to comprehend the stone tablet? More and more figures appeared, and they all looked curiously at Du Xiaofu. Some people tried to look at the stone tablet, but they couldn't see anything. Suddenly, a disciple of the ancient heaven sect vomited blood, and his face turned pale as if he had suffered a heavy blow. All disciples, pay attention. Don't look at your Martial Uncle Do. A loud voice shouted, waking up many disciples who were looking at Du Xiaofu. They were all pale with fright. Sword intent. His whole body is filled with sword intent. What is he trying to comprehend? On a mountain peak in the distance, Sima Texing stood, his robe fluttering in the wind. He looked at the purple-robed youth sitting cross-legged in front of the stone tablet with shock in his eyes. The bright saint sword manual was comprehended from the stone tablet. Is Xiaofu also comprehending the sword principle at this moment? Elder Gu Qingyang frowned slightly. He looked at his disciple in the distance and said softly, but this doesn't look like a simple sword Dao. That sword Dao seems to be the domineering sword Dao he comprehended in the sealed ancient land. Master, is he our junior brother? Beside Elder Gu Qingyang, there was an old man who was about the same age as Yuanli. He was slender and wore a long robe. His eyes were bright, and one could tell that he must have been extremely handsome when he was young. Like Elder Gu Qingyang, this old man also carried an ancient longsword on his back. He is your junior brother. Gu Qingyang nodded to the old man beside him and said, your junior brother has comprehended the bright saint sword manual much faster than you. 1 against 10, a supreme genius. The old man smiled and looked at the purple-robed youth in front of the stone tablet. Then, shock flashed in his eyes as he said softly, what a powerful sword intent. Time passed, and another month passed in the blink of an eye. The appearance of a barren mountain outside the ancient golden space surprised all the disciples of the ancient heaven sect, but it gradually calmed down after a month. However, Du Xiaofu showed no signs of waking up in front of the stone tablet. Even his posture had not changed. Finally, Du Xiaofu moved. However, he only lifted his head and stared at the empty stone tablet for 10 whole days. After that, he closed his eyes once again. Chapter 1006. Even the Great Luan sect, which everyone knew had suffered a great loss at the hands of Du Xiaofu, had never made trouble for the 7-star hall. The calmness of the 9 Great Luan sect made people feel that there was a special undercurrent. It seemed that something big was about to happen in the central plains that had been peaceful for a long time. The desolate country stood between the dark forest and Stone City. Even though many empires on the border were dividing up the Stone Dragon Empire, no one dared to make a move against the desolate country. The old kings of the Stone Dragon Empire couldn't hold on until the new generation of the general, Gu Xinyan, Guo Xiaofeng, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, and others joined in. They had all stepped into the martial emperor realm and were extremely talented. Therefore, they were able to hold back several empires and barely put up a last stand. However, that kind of resistance wouldn't last long. After repeated wars, the last army of the Stone Dragon Empire couldn't hold on anymore. They were short on supplies and their morale was unstable. More importantly, the shadows of several of the 9 Great Luan sects were behind the empires. Even the general and the others couldn't hold on for long. The dragon vein has been broken. Is the Stone Dragon Empire's fate really coming to an end? Smoke rose in front of the army. The North Vanquishing King wore blood-stained armor and had a solemn expression. Stone City, Du family's back mountain. Sister Yorua, everything has been arranged. We've done our best to take care of the refugees of the Stone Dragon Empire. On the mountain peak, Li Shui's attire was still as enchanting. She had become more capable over the years. She was young but held a high position in the world society. At this time, she was already famous in the desolate country. She had countless suitors but no one could get close to her. Do our best, especially the old, the weak, women, and children. Also, let the flying monsters of the heavenly beast hall bring food, water, and medicine to places with more refugees, said Muron Yorua. Okay. Li Shui nodded and turned to leave. Then, she seemed to remember something and looked back at Muron Yorua. She wanted to say something but stopped. Just say what you want to say. Is there anything you can't say to me? Muron Yorua smiled. Li Shui's eyes moved, she smiled faintly and said, many of the elders in the Du family have some complaints about you, and some people in the Stone City also feel that you are too hard-hearted. At the very least, you should have taken down the Lanling prefecture to settle the refugees. These days, the vice president and the minister have been under a lot of pressure. After all, Stone City and the Stone Dragon Empire have a lot of connections. Muron Yorua's eyes seemed calm. She then muttered in a low voice, it's good that they are kind-hearted, but they won't be able to accomplish great things. Li Shui looked at Muron Yorua and said, no matter what, I will always support Sister Yorua. Why do you support such a hard-hearted person like me? Muron Yorua asked Li Shui with a faint smile. Because you're doing this for the guild leader. You know that even if the guild leader were here right now, he would have already taken action. You're just trying to pave a path for the guild leader while he's not here. Li Shui said with a smile. She then turned around and left. Her beautiful figure left behind a beautiful arc in the air before she disappeared. It's really hard on you, little girl. As Li Shui's figure left, a rather wretched middle-aged face appeared in front of Muron Yorua. Brother Qin Chun. Muron Yorua smiled and bowed when she saw the figure in front of her. There's no need for those formalities. I'm just an idle person. Jin Qin Chun smiled. There was a charm around him. If Brother Qin Chun were an idle person, I can guarantee that the Great Luan sect would have wanted to come to the desolate nation long ago. Muron Yorua's autumn eyes were like water. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes glowed with spiritual light. Her temperament was like a gentle breeze that gently brushed past her. Haha, Jin Qin Chun smiled and looked at Muron Yorua before him. He said softly, I didn't expect that the ones with courage in the desolate nation would be you two little girls. Brother Qin Chun, you must be joking. Oldie went into seclusion because Miss Xie Fei has already become his disciple. She has received the true teachings of Oldie. He was afraid that Miss Xie Fei would come to ask for help. Therefore, he deliberately went into seclusion and left everything to me. The vice president is also clear in his heart. However, as a member of the desolate nation's royal family, he should be benevolent. He is now representing the Rock Emperor. There are some things that he wants to do, but may not be suitable for him to do. Therefore, there are some things that only an outsider like me can do. Muron Yorua walked with light steps. Her delicate body was lithe and tender, and her curves were graceful. Her delicate face was peerless. She looked at the mountain peak in front of her with ripples in her eyes. Jin Qin Chun looked at the girl before him and smiled. He then waved his hand and said with some arrogance, Yi Wuming and Du Yunlong can see it, but they don't do it. They are benevolent. They can only guard the mountains and rivers, but they can't open them. Guarding a mountain is more difficult than opening a river. Muron Yorua looked at Jin Qin Chun and said with a smile, Brother Qin Chun, are you saying that I'm not benevolent enough, that my heart is hard, and that I'm a vicious woman? But now is not the time for that kid to guard a mountain. What he needs is to open a river. Open a mountain and river. Zhen Qingchun looked at Murong Yorua and smiled, saying, I know whether you're a vicious woman or not. Murong Yorua smiled and continued to look ahead. The breeze lifted her skirt and she said softly, I don't know when he will come back. He must have encountered something. At least there won't be any danger in the ancient heaven sect, said Zhen Qingchun. Looking at the girl in front of him, there was a slight fluctuation in the depths of his inverted triangular eyes. After which, he smiled and said, Girl, since you call me Brother Qingchun, why don't you become my sworn sister? I just don't know if you are willing. Yorua greets Brother Qingchun. A smile appeared on Murong Yorua's beautiful face. She immediately bowed. She knew what kind of person the person before her was. Haha, Zhen Qingchun smiled and helped Murong Yorua up. Do whatever you want in the future. I'm here for you. Thank you, Brother Qingchun. Murong Yorua was grateful. She knew that the middle-aged man before her was helping her and becoming her pillar of support. Silly girl. Zhen Qingchun smiled and walked a few steps to the edge of the mountain peak. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the sky with a serious expression. Then, a chill flashed in the depths of his wretched but charming eyes. He said softly, he needs to be strong. Not only himself, but also those around him. In the future, he won't be facing one person, but a group of people from that clan. If he isn't strong, he won't be able to dig out his heart a second time. Time flowed like water. As Du Xiaofu returned to the ancient heaven sect, spring passed and autumn came. 2 cycles had already passed. Amidst the lush green mountains, strange flowers, and towering trees, there was a tinge of reddish-yellow color. The barren mountain had appeared in the ancient golden space, hanging on the top of 2 huge mountain peaks. It had already been a year since it appeared. Time quietly passed, but many people in the ancient heaven sect were burning with anxiety. However, none of them could do anything about Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu was still immersed in front of the ancient stone tablet. Ever since he opened his eyes for 10 days a few months ago, he had not opened them again. During this period, the area around the barren mountain had become a forbidden area of the ancient heaven sect. Apart from a few people like Elder Gu Qinyang, even many elders of the ancient heaven sect were forbidden from getting too close. However, all the disciples of the ancient heaven sect knew that Du Xiaofu was meditating in front of the stone tablet. He seemed to be comprehending something. Even outside the ancient heaven sect, there was a lot of news that Du Xiaofu, the demon king, had been in seclusion in the ancient heaven sect during the 2 years he had disappeared. In a vast and ancient space, there was an independent world. The mountains were lush green, and there were many ancient buildings with exquisite carvings. A lone peak stood tall, covered in lush green vegetation. The sky was blue and vast. A woman in a green dress stood on the mountain peak. She was only 21 or 22 years old. Her dress fluttered in the wind, and her black hair fell to her perky buttocks. The outline of her exquisite face revealed an otherworldly aura. Chapter 1007. The woman's beautiful figure stood there. On her otherworldly face, her ethereal eyes twinkled like stars as she stared at a certain spot in the sky. She was in a daze for a long time. Only when night fell did she raise her head slightly. The corners of her red lips trembled slightly as she softly muttered, "You didn't tell me, but did you really think that I wouldn't know?" As her voice fell, the woman's hand seals condensed, and her entire body was wrapped in runes. Then, from her chest, a smear of faint golden blood was spat out from her red lips. Puchi, this blood wrapped around the symbols. It was not ordinary blood, but essence blood. The blood was wrapped by the rune on her delicate palm. Then, she rubbed it between her eyebrows. As the seal formed, a ray of light shot out from between the woman's eyebrows and exploded into a dazzling light on the mountain peak. Walala, a large number of dazzling runes rippled in the air, causing the space to rustle. Those dazzling runes were obscure and complicated, emitting dazzling light that seemed both real and illusory. This light was like the bright moon, but also like the roiling clouds of morning dew, flickering indeterminately. However, within this light, there was a terrifying fluctuation and an unparalleled aura that intertwined with each other. In the end, it was as if a painting of the void had been pulled open in front of the mountain. Within the scroll, there was a young boy in a small border city who had been mocked and ridiculed since he was a child. After that, the young man sat alone on the barren mountain, enduring all the mockery and ridicule. Occasionally, he would smile, showing his indifference to all the mockery and ridicule. The youth grew up. Occasionally, he would travel through the wilderness with a sloppy, white-haired old man. They would catch fish and roast meat, and he would smile innocently. Under the ancient stone tablet, the young man comprehended it. In the depths of the mountain range, he was held hostage and was in great danger. In the end, he obtained the bones of the golden-winged great rock. Entering Lanling Prefecture City, entering Tianwu Academy, and venturing into the dark forest. In the Stone Dragon Empire, before becoming a king, he had already slain a king. The destruction of Tianwu Academy infuriated the young man. He brandished his sword and started a massacre before entering the ancient heaven sect. The scenes in the painting changed rapidly. The young man's life appeared before the woman's eyes, causing her to frown, smile, and feel her heart ache. She even shed tears, allowing them to flow down her cheeks. Only a few people in this world were able to see her tears. Originally, there was no such thing as empathy in this world. However, at this moment, this woman was able to feel it. It was as if those scenes had fused into her soul, and she was truly experiencing it herself. In this familiar place, that boy had grown into a young man. In this familiar place, he had once caused havoc everywhere, and in the end, he had been surrounded by countless experts. Above the void, the young man floated in midair, his pair of golden eyes were sharp and frightening. He pointed his sword and shouted, "You just want my heart. You are just afraid that my sister and my mother won't want my heart." After saying that, the purple-robed young man slowly put down the broadsword in his hand. He sighed slightly and looked at the sky. The woman could feel the young man's silent anger, helplessness, worry, and longing in his eyes that could pierce through the picture scroll. "My little sister, although I haven't met her yet, she is still my little sister. How can I not save her? Why do you have to deceive me like this? First, I want my father to be with my mother and younger sister. Secondly, I want the boundless tree." The young man's voice echoed in the painting. In the end, his eyes were filled with reluctance, disappointment, and complicated emotions. Then, he muttered something, and the corners of his mouth curved into a bitter smile. Looking at the sky around him, he was silent for a while, as if he was in a daze. "Mother, sister, I think we won't be able to see each other again in this life. I have too many things that I can't accept, too many things that I can't do. Master's task, the clan's expectations, I can't accept it. Sister, in the future, please complete them for me, okay?" The woman seemed to be able to faintly hear the young man's words. Pain, it was very painful, it was an indescribable pain. Hearing the purple-robed young man's words, the woman's face was covered in tears. She couldn't tell if this was an illusion or reality. She softly sobbed and waved her hand to stop him. No, no, but the purple-robed young man couldn't stop her. Golden light jumped out from his body, and the golden light shined brightly. His already cracked body was once again covered in golden blood, as if his body was about to explode. Golden light was about to seep out of his body, and the purple-robed young man's chest directly cracked open. Golden light shot out, accompanied by mysterious runes, and supreme pressure spread out. "Sister, you have to be good. Be filial to my parents for me, and protect my clan for me." As the purple-robed young man finished speaking, his right hand pierced into the crack in his chest like a claw, and a dazzling golden light burst out. "Mother, "Sister, I want to see you. I want to reunite with my family, but I can't do it. Forgive me." A thunderous roar reverberated in the air as a faint golden and blood-red heart appeared in the purple-robed young man's palm. This heart was beating powerfully like a drum, and it emitted a bright light. It was full of vitality, and a terrifying aura rushed into the sky. Sizzle. At this moment, blood splashed out from the purple-robed young man's chest. The blood was a faint golden color, and it was crystal clear. It was beautiful, but it looked so sad, like it was the last of its beauty. Blood flowed out from the young man's chest, but there was a smile on his face. At this moment, the heart in the woman's chest was beating violently, as if it was about to break out of her body. Pain, intense pain, as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. She felt the pain of having her heart dug out. Tears flowed down her cheeks like torrents. "Big brother, don't. The eyes of the woman in green were already blood-red, and her body trembled. She couldn't endure it anymore, so she let out a cry and threw herself at the scroll. However, the mysterious runes on the talisman soon dissipated, and the picture scroll disappeared in midair. Pucci, the woman spat out a mouthful of blood, and her body fell from the sky. Sigh, a sigh echoed, and Elder Ming's figure appeared. He supported the woman in green in the air, and his eyes were filled with helplessness as he sighed endlessly. "Elder Ming, why did you do this? Why did you kill my big brother?" The woman's body trembled. She didn't know why, but at this moment, she was extremely weak, and she fainted. In the ancient heaven sect, the bright moon was hanging in the dark blue night sky, and the moonlight was like a bright white blade. On the barren mountain, the young man in front of the stone tablet suddenly felt his chest tremble. He raised his head, and his tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes, and they were like lightning that shot into the sky. Boom! At the same time, the faintly discernible and complicated cracks on the ancient stone tablet suddenly began to overflow with light. The cracks were rapidly widening, and the entire barren mountain was shaking at this moment. Crack crack, the speed at which the stone tablet cracked became faster and faster, and the cracks on the ancient stone tablet became bigger and bigger. The light that spread out from the cracks also became more and more dazzling, as if it had turned into a curtain of light that enveloped the purple-robed young man. Rumble, then, the entire ancient stone tablet suddenly cracked, and turned into a pile of gravel and powder. At the same time, the barren mountain floating above the 2 peaks also began to crack. In the end, as the earth shook, it turned into gravel and sand that poured down from the 2 towering peaks. The huge commotion woke up countless auras. Swoosh swoosh, many figures flew over from all over the ancient heaven sect, and they were the first to arrive. More and more figures were still coming. Under the moonlight, everyone watched as the barren mountain and stone tablet in front of them shattered into gravel. Everyone looked at the purple-robed young man who had opened his eyes in surprise. At this moment, the purple-robed young man was quietly standing in the void, looking up at the sky. Other than the flickering light in his eyes, he seemed to be in a daze. "What's wrong with Junior brother? Something seems wrong." In the distance, an old man with an ancient sword on his back looked at the purple-robed young man in surprise. "Something seems wrong, but I can't put my finger on it," Gu Qingyang said softly. At this moment, his eyes were slightly focused. He looked at his disciple who had been silent for 2 years, and he had been worried about him. Junior brother can't have gone mad, right? Suddenly, the old man with the sword on his back looked at the purple-robed young man. The faint aura made his heart tremble. It was very violent. Hearing this, Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes trembled, and he became more and more worried. "I'll go check on Junior brother," the old man said, and then he rushed out. "Be careful," Gu Qingyang said to the old man. "Master, I'll be careful." The old man was touched. It was rare for his master to show so much concern for him. "I'm telling you to be careful of your junior brother. Don't disturb him," Gu Qingyang said to the old man without holding back. "I know, the touched expression on the old man's face instantly disappeared. Then, he helplessly looked at Elder Gu Qingyang and nodded. He felt wronged as he muttered, "We're both disciples, but the treatment is too different." Whoosh, as he muttered to himself, the old man's figure soared through the air and approached Du Xiaofu. His expression gradually became more focused. The closer he got, the more surprised the old man was. The purple-robed young man did not have any aura, but at this moment, he could feel an aura that made his heart tremble. That aura was like the ancestor of all weapons. It was like a sword, a spear, a rod, and a knife. That aura was extremely sharp. At this moment, the purple-robed young man stood quietly. However, he gave off the feeling that he was a silent divine weapon, like a suppressed volcano that could erupt at any time. Chapter 1008. Little Junior Brother. The elder called out softly as he slowly approached. Buzz! Suddenly, the surrounding space trembled. The silent purple-robed youth's eyes suddenly exploded with golden light. His entire body overflowed with golden light, illuminating the night sky. Suddenly, the purple-robed youth's hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes shone with golden light, faintly containing lightning. At this moment, he was extremely domineering and fierce. At this moment, the purple-robed youth seemed to have fused with a strange state. His body and mind were one, pushing himself to a peak. Whoosh! The purple-robed youth waved his hand. At this moment, his entire body seemed to have transformed into a human-shaped sword. With a wave of his hand, a sword ray immediately swept out. This sword light caused the void to tremble as it slashed forward. It was like a bolt of golden lightning that illuminated the void. Buzz buzz! At this moment, as the sword ray slashed out, it was as if a heavenly thunder had exploded in the sky. It shook the entire ancient heaven sect, and the surrounding mountains buzzed with wind and thunder. Oh no! The elder's expression changed drastically. The sword ray that came slashing down was obviously extremely simple. It could not be any simpler. However, the sword ray at this moment was something that he could not dodge at all. It was as if no matter how he dodged, he could not escape. It even made him fearful for no reason. The ancient sword on his back was unsheathed. The elder's face was covered in cold sweat. Then, the sword ray in his hand quickly swept out as he activated the holy sword roar. One after another, the complex and profound sword moves finally converged together and transformed into a sword, which instantly spread out with the speed of lightning. This sword ray contained the power to move mountains and seas. It was enough to shake mountains and rivers, collapse mountains and crack the earth, and destroy everything. The elder was Elder Gu Qingyang's eldest disciple and was also the strongest disciple. Compared to Elder Gu Qingyang, he was a few decades younger. He had cultivated for more than 200 years and was at the peak of the mysterious martial honorable realm. Boom! Suddenly, the two sword rays collided, and dazzling talisman runes exploded. The sound was like a sudden clap of thunder that shook the entire ancient heaven sect. It was clearly a collision of sword rays, but at this moment, there was the sound of rolling thunder, and a loud rumble reverberated. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the old man's holy sword roared and was destroyed by that simple sword strike as if it was nothing more than rotten wood. A terrifying aura rushed into the sky. Dazzling lightning fluctuations, more blazing than fire and more dazzling than lightning. It contained a terrifying sword intent. Sword way of the sword. The purple-robed youth's sword shadow sword art. The sword rays sword broke the elder's sword. This was not a sword, but a sword's way of the sword. It was close and there was nowhere to hide. Why is it so? How is it? This is it. The ancient sword art. His martial honorable celestial martial honorable martial his martial god realm S's. The junior brother S is the junior sword junior. The sword red sword, the sword Chi La. The sword light fell, and the ancient sword Dao artifact in the elder's hand was directly destroyed. The sword intent shook the void, and there was a strange roar of thunder. Just the fluctuation of the aura and the sound were so terrifying that it was impossible to resist. Blood dripped from the corner of the elder's mouth. The sword light was already in front of him, and he was about to suffer a great disaster. Retreat. A sword light stretched out from behind the elder and blocked the sword shadow of the purple-robed youth. A white figure appeared behind the old man. It was Elder Gu Qingyang. He twisted the void and pulled the old man away at the same time. Chi la la, the two sword lights collided, and there was a terrifying fluctuation in the void. Several huge mountains in the surroundings were immediately affected. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the mountains shook, and then they collapsed. In the mountains, large cracks appeared on the ground. Dust filled the air, and gravel flew into the sky. Then everything disappeared, and the surroundings became calm. All of this shocked the disciples and powerhouses of the ancient sky sect who had gathered around. The elder in question stared at his junior brother in the distance, and there was surprise and shock in his eyes. He had used his hand as a sword, but he had nearly killed a peak mysterious martial honorable like him with that simple sword strike. This kind of sword intent was too terrifying, so valiant. So powerful. Many of the ancient sky sect's elders were shocked and gasped. What a domineering and terrifying sword intent. In the void, Sima Taxing stood surrounded by many powerhouses. He looked at the purple-robed youth not far away, and there was deep shock in his glassy eyes. In the void, as the sword light disappeared, Du Xiaofu, who had been in a daze, gradually recovered. An ancient aura swept out from his body. His purple robe and hair fluttered, and the surrounding space trembled. Huff! A mouthful of turbid air was spat out from his throat, and a faint smile appeared on his resolute face as he muttered, "So it turns out that it's not a move, but a Dao. The first stone tablet is force, and this stone tablet is Bing." Du Xiaofu seemed to have turned a deaf ear to the many figures that had gathered around him after his voice softly sounded. He lifted his head slightly, and an invisible force seemed to be drawn from his body, like a suppressed volcano that was being pulled, and began to slowly spread out. At that moment, the stars in the sky under the night sky were also attracted, and some stars were about to fall. The Milky Way in the sky rippled, and the starlight flickered. There was a vast power of the stars, like a tide, that descended from the ninth heaven, and then shrouded the mountains of the ancient sky sect. At that moment, all the disciples of the ancient sky sect could feel that a terrifying aura, like a volcanic eruption, was quietly beginning to surge. Then, in an instant, it spread out in all directions. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying golden light burst out from the purple-robed youth's body, and the golden light was boundless. I entered the Tao with weapon, and became a martial venerable with the overbearing sword path. Break! The golden light spread out and shot out. As his shout fell, Du Xiaofu suddenly stomped his foot in the void, and a loud shout from his mouth echoed through the night sky. Whoosh! The golden light was dazzling, and in the golden light, the shadow of a huge golden-winged rock appeared. It flapped its wings and rushed into the sky, as if it was going to soar into the sky. Screech! The sound waves pierced through the clouds, and the golden-winged rock spread its wings. Its whole body was shining with golden light, and with the whistling of thunder, its ferocious aura spread out, causing the whole space to tremble. Under the terrifying golden-winged rock's shadow, a golden five-fingered mountain peak appeared again. It absorbed the endless energy of heaven and earth, and released a dazzling golden light. An endless aura swept across the sky. Rumble! Suddenly, in the mountains of the ancient sky sect, the earth rumbled, and the continuous mountain peaks trembled. All the disciples of the ancient sky sect who were watching all of this trembled violently. The meridians and souls in their bodies trembled, and their blood froze. As the golden-winged rock's shadow and the five-fingered mountain peak's shadow appeared, a majestic aura rose from the purple-robed youth's body like a volcanic eruption, and it shocked the powerhouses of the ancient sky sect. It's Du Xiaofu who is breaking through. At this moment, all the elders and protectors of the ancient sky sect trembled. Xiaofu is fine. He's breaking through. Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes were filled with excitement. His disciple was fine, and it seemed that he had obtained a great opportunity in front of the stone tablet and was breaking through. The golden-winged rock's shadow shook the 9 heavens, and the five-fingered mountain peak's shadow suppressed all living things. The 2 most terrifying auras spread out, causing the legs of the surrounding people to go soft. In addition, at this moment, some powerhouses were surprised to see that the purple-robed youth's body was still covered in purple flames. Lightning flashed, and his aura was shocking. Rumble, the surrounding night sky was distorted, and in the terrifying aura above the Milky Way, countless stars seemed to fall, and finally gathered into rays of starlight. The dazzling starlight gathered into a torrent of star energy, which fell from the depths of the night sky, passed through layers of space barriers, and finally poured into the purple-robed youth's body. The starlight spread out, and the seemingly gentle aura made people's souls tremble. The tall and straight purple-robed youth's body was like a bottomless pit at this moment, swallowing an endless amount of star energy. There was also a vast aura spreading out from his body like an erupting volcano. Then, some people saw an illusory figure appear on the terrifying golden-winged rock's shadow. The figure was exactly the same as Du Xiaofu's body. It was another Du Xiaofu, but the figure was illusory, and there was a vast and terrifying aura coming from the illusory Du Xiaofu's body. That aura. It's a martial honor. Feeling the terrifying aura, Yin Machen, Xiang Ling, Shui Ruhan, Si Ruofeng, and the others who were gathered nearby were instantly dumbfounded. Junior brother is breaking through to martial honor. The old man whose ancient sword Du Xiaofu had broken took a deep breath, and his voice trembled as he felt the terrifying aura. What a terrifying aura! Martial Uncle Du's aura is probably not something that many of the Manchu elders can compare to. Martial Uncle Du seems to be breaking through to martial honor. I can't believe it. Martial Uncle Du is younger than some of us, but he's already a martial honor. Nonsense, Martial Uncle Du is a paragon sky pride, and no one in the same generation as him can compare to him. How can we compare to him? Discussions broke out all around. Countless disciples were dumbfounded, and they were shocked by the terrifying aura. Chapter 1009. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. The golden-winged rock and the five-finger mountain hovered in the sky. Purple flames surged and lightning arcs filled the sky. A mighty pressure filled the ancient heaven sect. Under this mighty pressure, even the experts of the ancient heaven sect were shocked. Many of the elders began to feel weak in the knees. Shocked whispers could be heard from the surrounding disciples. Martial Uncle Du was not old, but he had already stepped into the Zun stage. As a disciple of the ancient heaven sect, all of the youths had their own pride. Even the most extraordinary Yin Machen, Xiang Ling, Shui Ruhan and the others also had their own pride. However, compared to the purple-robed youth, their pride was not even worth mentioning. He should be the first person in the central continent to break through to the honorable realm at such a young age. Shock was written all over Elder Hu Sankuan's face. His primordial spirit is still strengthening. He has broken through to the honorable realm in martial arts and has stepped into the 8-star talisman Dao. In the sky, Gu Qingyang, Sima taking Xing, Protector Hao, and the others were floating in the air. Elder Gu Qingyang's gaze was fixed on the illusory figure of the golden-winged great peng that was continuously growing stronger. He could not help but cry out in surprise again. At that moment, everyone could feel that the aura of the illusory figure was still growing stronger. It was breaking through to the martial saint level, and its talisman Dao was continuing to break through to the 8 stars. This kid is really abnormal. How did Martial Uncle Qingyang accept him into the ancient heaven sect? Sima Taking nodded secretly. His glassy eyes could not help but flash with excitement. He had stepped into the martial honorable realm and the 8-star talisman master at such a young age. Back then, he had only barely stepped into the martial honorable realm after the age of 30 because he had received many benefits. However, he had the entire ancient heaven sect's foundation and resources to support him. That guy has already reached the peak of the martial royal realm and the peak of the 7-star talisman master. This time, he seems to have obtained a real divine ability in front of the stone tablet. He has also obtained an opportunity to break through in one fell swoop. A figure with golden light appeared. It was the Honorable Golden Rock. Greetings, Elder. Greetings, Uncle Master. With the appearance of the Venerable Golden Rock, Gu Qingyang, many elders, and Sima Taking Xing immediately saluted. They were surprised that the Venerable Golden Rock was also attracted. The Venerable Golden Rock waved his hand, gesturing for everyone to rise. His eyes were fixed on the Golden Rock's shadow in the sky. His eyes were filled with shock. Then, he looked at the rolling purple flames, the thunder and lightning, and the energy of the stars. He smiled and said, "This kid is very lucky. Once he breaks through to the venerable realm, he will be able to amaze the world." He. Hearing that even the Venerable Golden Rock was praising his precious disciple, Elder Gu Qingyang smiled proudly at the side, feeling extremely comfortable in his heart. While everyone was still in shock, the star energy that was pouring down from the sky finally calmed down after an hour. Then, even the Golden Rock Wing Shadow, the 5-finger mountain shadow, and everything else disappeared. The mighty pressure that filled the sky also quickly dissipated. In everyone's eyes, the illusory figure was still faintly golden. At this moment it was rippling with unparalleled spiritual energy. Newly ascended martial honor, an 8-star spiritual symbol master. Countless shocked voices could not help but reverberate in the surrounding mountains. An 8-star spiritual symbol master, but the primordial spirit is comparable to an ordinary 8-star mysterious spiritual symbol master or even an 8-star Prometheus spiritual symbol master. That ancient aura is even more strange and shocking. The Venerable Golden Rock looked at the illusory Du Xiaofu. Deep in his eyes, which were rippling with golden light, there was a trace of shock. Qi. The illusory Du Xiaofu's figure then turned into a stream of light and rushed into the body of the Venerable Golden Rock. A moment later, the purple-robed young man, who was floating in the air, finally opened his eyes. A golden lightning glow, accompanied by purple flames and starlight, rippled in the depths of his eyes. In an instant, it was retracted. After which, his eyes became clear and bright, to the point that one could not even feel the fluctuation of his aura. However, it was this calmness that made the surrounding ancient heaven sect disciples feel an inexplicable pressure. Those clear eyes seemed to be able to make people's souls tremble with just a glance. Huff, in the sky, Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. He stretched his body, which had not moved for 2 years. At this moment, his bones and joints were like rusty steel, emitting a mechanical ka-ka sound. A comfortable feeling that he had never felt before spread out from his body. Martial Sovereign, 8-star spiritual symbol master. As his mind swept through his body, he felt the vast profound qi in his body and the spiritual energy in his Naiwan palace. A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. With this kind of strength, it was no wonder that countless people were chasing after it. Even after spending their entire lives, they only wanted to open the door to the martial sovereign realm. Boom! As he clenched his fist, the space above his palm distorted. That was the profound qi that had surged to the peak and gathered together. It could distort and even shatter space. It was like the speed that had reached the extreme. It could make people seem extremely slow, or even still. I wonder what will happen if I encounter a Nirvana martial sovereign. I'm really looking forward to it. Du Xiaofu muttered in his heart as he felt the strength in his body. It should be easy for him to shatter the profound qi of a martial sovereign. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to destroy the profound qi of an ordinary martial sovereign. However, he did not know what would happen if he encountered a nirvana martial sovereign. After all, in the martial sovereign realm, a small realm had a huge gap. That gap was even bigger than the gap between the postnatal realm and the martial sovereign realm. At this moment, what made Du Xiaofu happy was not that he had the cultivation of a martial sovereign, but that he had finally reached the martial sovereign realm. Back then, when he walked out of the stone city, the martial sovereign realm was an untouchable existence in his heart. It was so far away that he could not touch it. But now, he had reached it. I still have to have a dream. What if it comes true? Du Xiaofu smiled and loosened his palm. The distorted space above his palm then calmed down and returned to normal. At this moment, the martial sovereign realm was only a dream in his heart. It was not his final goal. There was no end to being an expert. After reaching a certain level, Du Xiaofu deeply understood that the martial sovereign realm was only the staircase to a true expert. Qi. In Du Xiaofu's thoughts, there were many whooshing sounds. Then, several figures appeared beside Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, you almost worried your master to death. It's good that you're fine. Elder Gu Qingyang stepped forward. Although he was happy for his disciple's breakthrough, he had also worried a lot over the past 2 years. Disciple has made master worried. Looking at his master's 2 front teeth and his ruddy old face, Du Xiaofu felt a warmth crawl into his heart. Although his master did not teach him much about his cultivation, his care and protection made Du Xiaofu's heart feel the most warm. It's a good thing to have a breakthrough, but you better explain to me what's going on with that stone tablet. That's an important treasure of the ancient heaven sect. The smile on Sima Ta Xing's face disappeared. His glassy eyes stared at Du Xiaofu. The barren mountain and the stone tablet had turned into rubble. The ancient stone tablet was indeed a treasure of the ancient heaven sect. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu turned his head and looked at the rubble that had turned into a mountain. For a moment, his expression was awkward, and he did not know what to say. Sect Master, this is not Xiaofu's doing. It was an accident. It has nothing to do with your junior brother Xiaofu. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Sima Ta Xing with a smile, speaking good words for his precious disciple. Martial uncle. Then you're really a good martial uncle of the ancient heaven sect. Sima Ta Xing was speechless and felt helpless. The martial uncle in front of him was really a good martial uncle of the ancient heaven sect. He then looked at Du Xiaofu and said, let's discuss something alone. A moment later, under the night sky, in Sima Ta Xing's courtyard. What kind of ability is contained in that stone tablet? Why are you the only one who can comprehend it? In the small hall, Sima Ta Xing asked Du Xiaofu. At this moment, only Sima Ta Xing and Du Xiaofu were in the small hall. The stone tablet contains a kind of weapon Dao. I don't know its origin, but I know that it's profound and vast. It's a fusion of 10,000 weapons. Chapter 10:10. Du Xiaofu did not hide much. He told Sima taxing everything he knew. The ancient stone tablet in the golden ancient space contained the way of soldiers. It was all-encompassing and boundless. It seemed to be able to break all sword techniques, saber techniques, spear techniques, and so on. The expert in the ancient sky sect had comprehended the bright saint sword manual from it. It was definitely a great talent. At that moment, Du Xiaofu had comprehended the way of the sword from it. In the end, he had fused it with his incomplete way of the hegemon sword and had finally reached the beginner level. Because of that, he had found an opportunity to become a martial saint. When Du Xiaofu had cultivated the bright saint sword manual, he had felt a sense of déjà vu. Only now did he know that it had something to do with the first stone tablet. The first stone tablet contained force. It was a kind of force that included all fist techniques, palm techniques, finger techniques, and so on. It could break all techniques with force, but it was not just one force that could defeat 10 techniques. It was far more vast than one force that could defeat 10 techniques. The way of soldiers contained in the stone tablet is vast. I have only comprehended a little now. I can't explain it clearly. Du Xiaofu did not hide anything from Sima Taxing. He then said, I can comprehend it. I don't know the reason. Maybe it's because I'm lucky. Du Xiaofu couldn't say that he had comprehended a stone tablet when he was in Stone City's Du family. He could only casually come up with a reason. Sima Taxing did not seem to believe Du Xiaofu's reason. However, he could not find any loopholes. He looked at Du Xiaofu in disbelief. He knew very well what benefits Du Xiaofu had obtained from the stone tablet. That sword essence had almost caused senior brother Jian Santong to suffer a great disaster. Sima Taxing's eyes moved slightly. He then said to Du Xiaofu, I don't care what the reason is. The stone tablet has been broken and you have obtained the benefits. You can't take it for free. Senior brother sect master, no matter how you look at it, I'm still a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. It's only right for a disciple of the ancient heaven sect to receive benefits from the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu's eyes turned, and a smile appeared on his face. He was all smiles. Hearing this, Sima Taxing Xing was a little stunned. He was really speechless. At this moment, looking at Du Xiaofu's smiling face, Sima Taxing Xing had an illusion that this kid and martial uncle Gu Qingyang were not from the same family. Even if they were not from the same family, their smiles were the same, with a sinister smile. It's true that you're a disciple of the ancient heaven sect, but you're also the young hall master of the 7-star hall, the president of the World Society, the alliance master of the World Alliance, the palace master of the Dubhe Hall, and the emperor of the barren country. Sima Taxing Xing rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. Counting carefully, this kid really had a lot of titles now. No matter what, I'm still a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. Senior brother sect master will always be my senior brother Zhu. No matter when, if the ancient heaven sect needs it, this disciple will do his best and will not hesitate to die. Du Xiaofu looked at Sima Taxing Xing affectionately and said. Du Xiaofu's words were true. In Du Xiaofu's heart, the ancient heaven sect was his third home. No matter what, he would always be a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. Looking at Du Xiaofu's affectionate expression, Sima Taxing Xing felt speechless. He had prepared some words in his heart and was waiting for this kid to make an excuse so that he could take the opportunity to throw them out. Who knew that this kid's answer was not on the same channel as his, making it impossible for him to follow his plan. Okay, I won't argue with you. You must make a copy of everything you have comprehended from the stone tablet and leave it in the ancient heaven sect. Sima Taxing Xing said. He had to consider everything on the stone tablet for the ancient heaven sect. Okay, but my comprehension of the stone tablet is not very thorough now. When I make some progress in the future, I will naturally make a copy for the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu did not hesitate and directly nodded. Naturally, he should leave a share of the benefits he obtained from the ancient heaven sect for the ancient heaven sect. Of course, there's no problem. Let's talk about business now. Sima Taxing Xing nodded and then looked at Du Xiaofu with a serious expression. Looking at the expression of his senior brother Sima Taxing Xing, Du Xiaofu was also puzzled. I heard from your master that you want to ask about the devil religion. Sima Taxing Xing asked. Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded. He came to the ancient heaven sect to ask about the devil religion. However, because of this delay, 2 years had passed. This made Du Xiaofu feel quite helpless. The devil religion has existed for a long time. The central continent has 1 valley, 2 religions, 3 sects and 3 factions. They have also been secretly searching for traces of the devil religion. They are all pervasive and have many experts, but they are also extremely mysterious. Sima Taxing Xing said, in fact, we are not the only ones paying attention to the devil religion. The forces in other continents are also paying attention to the existence of the devil religion. The devil religion does not only exist in the central continent. As far as we know, the devil religion has been searching for people who have spiritual thunder. What's the use of them looking for people who have spiritual thunder? Du Xiaofu asked doubtfully. He already knew about this. His master, the venerable tool master, had the 3,000 repelling thunders, so he was targeted by the people of the devil religion. Sima Taxing Xing looked at Du Xiaofu and shook his head, saying, we don't know about this. At least we don't know yet. The devil religion is too mysterious, but there should be some news in the near future. The devil religion is really mysterious. Du Xiaofu sighed slightly. The devil religion was even more mysterious than he had imagined. It was a pity that the ancient heaven sect did not know about the devil religion and its origin. The world is about to be in chaos. There is no doubt about this. Sima Taxing Xing sternly said to Du Xiaofu, I'll make a long story short. Boy, are you willing to be the next patriarch of the ancient heaven sect? The next patriarch. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly trembled and he was stunned. This news really shocked Du Xiaofu. He looked at Sima Taxing Xing with a dumbfounded expression. What? Didn't you hear clearly? As long as you are willing, you can immediately become the next patriarch of the ancient heaven sect. Sima Taxing Xing rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. If others heard such news, they would definitely be pleasantly surprised and excited, but the boy in front of him seemed to only be shocked. Gulp, Du Xiaofu swallowed his saliva. In the central province, no one could refuse the position of the patriarch of the ancient heaven sect. The patriarch of one of the 9 great influences could make the entire central province tremble with a stomp of his feet. Du Xiaofu was moved. If he really became the patriarch of the ancient heaven sect, he could use a terrifying force and foundation for his own use, and even deal with that clan. At present, the world society was far from being comparable to the ancient heaven sect. What? You don't want to? Sima Taxing Xing looked at the expression on Du Xiaofu's face and frowned slightly. The patriarch of the ancient heaven sect is really tempting. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and looked at his senior brother Sima Taxing Xing. He said, but I'm afraid I'm not up to the task. Senior brother, are you really at ease to hand over the ancient heaven sect to me? Don't talk nonsense. The emperor of the barren country, the president of the world society, and the leader of the world alliance. Even if you become the patriarch of the ancient heaven sect now, you're still up to the task. Sima Taxing Xing rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. That guy could become the president of the world society at such a young age. At such a young age, he was able to bring the group of bloodthirsty people from the dark forest into the world society and make them extremely obedient. Chapter 10-11. To tell you the truth, this decision was not made by me alone. Many of the great elders of the Manchu have already agreed. As long as you are willing, you can even become the master of the ancient heaven sect immediately, Sima Taxing continued. Du Xiaofu pondered for a while with a wry smile on his face. Then, he solemnly bowed to Sima Taxing and said, I thank senior brother and the great elders of the Manchu for thinking so highly of me, but I can't agree. Because you are the lord of the 7-star hall and feel that the 7-star hall is stronger than the ancient heaven sect? Sima Taxing frowned slightly. Du Xiaofu shook his head and said to Sima Taxing, although I don't know how strong the ancient heaven sect is, I can feel that the true strength of the ancient heaven sect is much stronger than the 7-star hall. Although I am the young lord of the 7-star hall, I don't know if I will become the lord of the 7-star hall. I have never thought about it. Why is that? Sima Taxing was a little puzzled. There was some curiosity in his eyes. There is no end to the strong. I am focused on cultivation. I am afraid that I will be powerless to take care of such a large ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu knew very well what he needed. Even if he obtained the entire ancient heaven sect, he was afraid that he would not be able to compete with that clan. A true powerhouse was strong in himself. Du Xiaofu had always known this. Moreover, even if he became the sect master of the ancient heaven sect, it was not certain that the ancient heaven sect would be able to keep its word. With the ancient heaven sect's foundation, there must be a group of hidden experts in the ancient heaven sect. They were the true strength of the ancient heaven sect, and also the true masters of the ancient heaven sect. Compared to the ancient heaven sect, Du Xiaofu was more intimate with the 7-star hall. The 7 lords were all his senior uncles, which made Du Xiaofu feel more at ease. Becoming the lord of the ancient heaven sect was definitely a temptation that no young person in the Central Plains could refuse. Du Xiaofu was the same. Therefore, when he heard Sima taxing it, he was really surprised. As a young man, it was impossible for him to remain unmoved. He was even a little excited. But after careful consideration and taking a deep breath, Du Xiaofu knew that what he needed now was not the position of the lord of the ancient heaven sect. That he was the lord of the ancient heaven sect was the lord of the ancient heaven sect. If you become the lord of the ancient heaven sect, you will be able to cultivate wholeheartedly. Only the lord of the ancient heaven sect can cultivate some of the top methods and divine abilities of the ancient heaven sect, obtain the treasures of the entire ancient heaven sect, and use the foundation of the entire ancient heaven sect for your own use. With your talent, it will be enough for your strength to grow again in a short period of time. I can guarantee that. Sima Taxing said affirmatively. His eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. The young man in front of him had truly moved Sima Taxing from the bottom of his heart. My strength will grow again in a short period of time. There was a blazing color in his clear eyes. For Du Xiaofu, this was an irresistible temptation. It was also what he needed the most. Even if you become the lord of the ancient heaven sect, the ancient heaven sect will not let you worry too much. For now, you only need to cultivate wholeheartedly, and I will help you take care of the ancient heaven sect. Sima Taxing looked at Du Xiaofu and said softly, how about it? As long as you nod your head now, you can become the lord of the ancient heaven sect. In a short period of time, your strength will increase again. In the future, the entire ancient heaven sect will be your strongest backing. A moment later, Du Xiaofu said to Sima Taxing Star with a wry smile, it's really a great temptation. I really can't refuse. His eyes even turned red. You agree? Sima Taxing Star asked with a smile. No, Du Xiaofu smiled and shook his head. He then looked at Sima Taxing Star and said, I am a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. This will always be the case. As long as the ancient heaven sect does not expel me, I will always be a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. However, right now, the position of Lord is not suitable for me. If one day, senior brother really wants to give the ancient heaven sect to me, then I will definitely not refuse. At that time, it won't be your turn. Do you think the Lord of the ancient heaven sect is so worthless that you need to ask others to do it? Sima Taxing Star glared at Du Xiaofu before looking at Du Xiaofu. He took a deep breath and said, okay, it seems like you really have no interest in becoming the Lord of the ancient heaven sect. How about this, let's talk about some serious matters. What is your current status in the 7-star hall? Senior uncles and senior uncles have taken great care of me. Du Xiaofu said. He thought about how Kuang Zun, Yu Xianzi, Zi Tianzuan, and Qian Xing treated him like a disciple. Sima Taxing Star continued to ask, as for the future lord of the 7-star hall, have the seniors, Kuang Zun, and Fairy Yun ever intended to give the 7-star hall to you? Senior uncles and senior uncles have inadvertently mentioned it, but, of course they have that intention. Sima Taxing Star interrupted Du Xiaofu and told Du Xiaofu, brat, from now on, the two of us will no longer be brothers. I am the lord of the ancient heaven sect and you are the president of the world society, the ruler of the desolate country, and the young lord of the 7-star hall. Du Xiaofu felt the serious expressions of his senior brother and senior brother Sima taxing star, so he became serious again and said, "Senior brother, if you have something to say, then please say it. The world is about to fall into chaos. When the time comes, not only will the central province be in turmoil, but the entire world will be in turmoil." Sima taxing star sighed and said, "So the ancient heaven sect intends to form an alliance with your world society, the desolate country, and the 7-star hall?" "An alliance with my desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall," Du Xiaofu was surprised. It was understandable that the ancient heaven sect and the 7-star hall wanted to form an alliance, but the desolate country and the world society were not enough for the ancient heaven sect to form an alliance. "Yes, after we form an alliance, we will advance and retreat together. I think you should have enough trust in the ancient heaven sect, but there is one thing. After we form an alliance, the ancient heaven sect will be in charge. The desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall will be in charge." Sima taxing star said to Du Xiaofu, "I can represent the desolate country and the world society, but I can't represent the 7-star hall. After all, the 7-star hall is currently under my eldest martial uncle's control." Du Xiaofu said while pondering. The ancient heaven sect took the initiative to form an alliance with him. This was a good thing for the world society and the desolate country. However, he really couldn't make the decision for the 7-star hall. Sima taxing star said, "I believe that with your identity as the young hall master of the 7-star hall, you can represent the 7-star hall. I believe that this is absolutely beneficial to the 7-star hall. Even if Senior Kuang Zun is unwilling, the ancient heaven sect can only form an alliance with the world society and the desolate country. Forming an alliance is not a problem. I also have absolute faith in the ancient heaven sect. At least, I am also a disciple of the ancient heaven sect." Du Xiaofu pondered for a while. Then, he looked at Sima taxing star with a slight flicker of light in his clear eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "However, in the future, the ancient heaven sect will be the main force. The desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall will be secondary. I'm afraid that even if I agree, my eldest martial uncle Kuang Zun will not agree. Brat, if you can come up with conditions or strength that can move me, we can discuss this matter separately. Otherwise, the ancient heaven sect will be the main force. We will form an alliance and advance together. For now, you have a great advantage." Sima taxing star rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. This brat was really hard to satisfy. He had given him an inch and wanted a mile. "Senior brother sect master, we are not talking about the identity of brothers now. I won't be polite with this brat." Du Xiaofu looked at Sima taxing star. There was no smile on his face. The invisible aura of a superior surged from his body. He was like a supreme youth, causing Sima taxing star to be secretly moved. "If we form an alliance, not only will the ancient heaven sect not be the main force, but the ancient golden space, silver space, and bronze space must all be open to the disciples of the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall. Of course, this can be done according to the rules of the ancient heaven sect. Otherwise, the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall will not form an alliance with the ancient heaven sect. Brat, are you okay? You have to know that in this world, everything depends on strength. Although you are my junior brother and martial uncle Qingyang's disciple, you have to know that the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall do not have the strength to bargain with the ancient heaven sect." Sima taxing star looked at Du Xiaofu. His glass-like eyes sharpened a little. There was even some worry and disappointment. The young man in front of him was arrogant and self-satisfied. This was definitely not a good thing. Indeed, the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall do not have the strength to bargain with the ancient heaven sect. Everything in this world depends on strength. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. Then, he waved his hand. Then, purple golden electric arcs overflowed in his palm. The light was dazzling. An ancient and boundless aura spread out with a destructive overbearing aura. Finally, a small three-legged cauldron appeared on his palm. He looked at Sima Taxing Star and said, "But I don't know if I can bargain with the ancient heaven sect with this thing." Chapter 10-12. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and waved his hand. Soon, his palm was overflowing with purple gold lightning. The light was dazzling and an ancient and boundless aura spread out with a destructive overbearing aura. In the end, a three-legged cauldron appeared in his palm. He looked at Sima Taxing and said, "But I wonder if I can bargain with the ancient heaven sect with this item." The eyes of Sima Taxing, who was the leader of the 10 great geniuses back then, suddenly trembled as he looked at the three-legged cauldron that was overflowing with purple gold lightning arcs in Du Xiaofu's palm. A deep shock spread throughout his entire body, causing his body to immediately tremble. After which, his eyes were stunned as he looked at the three-legged cauldron in Du Xiaofu's palm. The Divine Thunder Cauldron. This is the Divine Thunder Cauldron sealed in the ancient land. Sima Taxing looked at the cauldron in Du Xiaofu's palm. The overflowing purple lightning and the overbearing aura of destruction that permeated the cauldron seemed to have seen the most shocking thing. Back then, he was the leader of the heaven's prides and had obtained the divine thunder. Gu Qingyang knew that the divine thunder cauldron was on Du Xiaofu's body. However, in order to protect his beloved disciple, he did not say anything to the ancient heaven sect. "Yes, this is the divine thunder cauldron. It has already recognized me as its master. It can refine everyone's body with divine thunder." A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's lips. Then, the purple thunder cauldron spun in his palm. The layer of white light around him quietly disappeared. He had just summoned the purple thunder cauldron from the ancient desolate space in his mud pill palace. Then, he put the cauldron back into the divine watchtower. He said to Sima Taxing, "I wonder if we can discuss the conditions again now." "There's no need to discuss. I can agree to your conditions on behalf of the ancient heaven sect right now. The younger generation of the world society, the 7-star hall, and the desolate country can all enter the ancient bronze space, the ancient silver space, and the ancient gold space. However, they must follow the rules of the ancient heaven sect. In addition, I can also promise you that I can let some of the old men from the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall enter the 3 ancient spaces to comprehend for a while. As for our alliance in the future, the ancient heaven sect will be in charge of everything. We can also discuss it with each other. If both sides agree, then there will be a draw." Sima Taxing stared at Du Xiaofu. The shock in his eyes was hard to hide. He said, "But there is one thing. The ancient heaven sect must also share the cultivation resources of the desolate country, the world society, and the 7-star hall, including the divine thunder cauldron." "Okay, but only a few people can be chosen for the divine thunder cauldron, and they must be trustworthy." Du Xiaofu nodded without hesitation. In order to keep the news of the purple thunder cauldron a secret, he could only choose a few trustworthy people to enter the cauldron. If there were too many people, then the news of the cauldron being in his possession might be leaked. As for the divine thunder cauldron, even without the alliance, Du Xiaofu would not be stingy. In Du Xiaofu's mind, he was also a part of the ancient heaven sect. He was the ruler of the desolate country, the leader of the world society, and the young master of the 7-star hall. However, this did not affect his status as a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. "Okay, it's a deal." Sima Taxing nodded. He looked at Du Xiaofu and sternly said, "This matter has been decided. I will inform the Supreme Elder of the Manchu as soon as possible. I will also arrange for a group of disciples to enter the cauldron to obtain the divine thunder cauldron. In addition, remember to keep the news of the cauldron being in your possession a secret. Once it is leaked, the consequences will be unimaginable." "I understand." Du Xiaofu understood and nodded. There is another matter. I'm afraid you will need to return to the desolate country immediately. There has been a lot of chaos there. Your sisters Du Shaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, the Phantom, and Ouyang Shuang have all returned to the desolate country for a while. Sima Taxing said. The desolate country is in chaos. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly narrowed after hearing this. His heartstrings immediately tightened. No, it's the Stone Dragon Empire. I'm afraid it's almost completely occupied now. Your sister Du Shaoqing is afraid that something will happen to the desolate country, so she brought people back. Sima Taxing explained the general situation of the Stone Dragon Empire to Du Xiaofu and said, around the dark forest, across the central continent, across the river, and around the Million Mountains, there are a total of 8 empires of various sizes. Strictly speaking, their strength is about the same, but they all have the backing of the Heavenly Serpent sect, the Underworld sect, the Spirit Sky Valley, and the Profound Talisman sect. They really are starting to lose their patience and take action. Du Xiaofu was relieved that nothing had happened to the desolate country. However, Du Xiaofu was not surprised that the Stone Dragon Empire had taken action. It was just that Du Xiaofu was a little surprised that a total of 8 empires had taken action against the Stone Dragon Empire. It's time to go back and take a look. Du Xiaofu murmured. After asking Sima Taxing about the general situation, he decided to leave the Ancient Heaven sect early in the morning and return to the desolate country. Although the desolate country was fine, the Stone Dragon Empire had almost been occupied. Du Xiaofu could imagine how chaotic the desolate country would be, so he had to go back. Not to mention, the North Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, and South Vanquishing King were all in the Stone Dragon Empire. They would definitely fight to the death for the Stone Dragon Empire, which worried Du Xiaofu. After leaving Sima Taxing's place, Du Xiaofu immediately returned to his courtyard. He summoned the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron from the Divine Watchtower and entered it. Rumble, purple thunderclouds occupied the space inside the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron. The purple gold lightning converged into purple gold thunderbolts that constantly fell from the sky. The sound of thunder reverberated in the void. At that moment, there were over a dozen figures sitting cross-legged in the air. Bolts of purple gold lightning fell from the sky onto the bodies of these people, enveloping them in lightning. Lightning radiated from all over their bodies, and a terrifying aura rippled from them. As the bolts of lightning fell, purple gold lightning arcs overflowed. Then, the lightning quietly spread on the surface of the bodies of the 10 people and seeped into their bodies. Finally, it turned into energy. This is going to take a long time. This is going too far. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the void. He waved his hand and the lightning arcs around him quietly disappeared. The rumbling thunder and lightning then dissipated. Sizzle, as the purple gold lightning dissipated, the purple gold thunderclouds and lightning arcs disappeared. In the void, the 10 figures sitting cross-legged suddenly opened their eyes. Dazzling purple gold lightning arcs surged out of their eyes and rushed into the sky. It was as if the lightning had materialized, causing the space to tremble continuously. On the surface of the bodies of the 10 people, purple lightning vaguely overflowed. In the end, it quietly disappeared. However, compared to before, there was an additional purple gold color on the bodies of the 10 people. All of them were releasing an extremely terrifying aura. At this moment, the 10 people in the void were the 3rd senior brother Yuanli, Diu, Du Shui, Xiao Yingmeng, Mu Jiejia, Hao Bian, Mo1, Guzong, and the others who were brought into the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron by Du Xiaofu before entering the desolate golden ancient space. Back then, the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron was placed in the desolate golden ancient space. As Du Xiaofu immersed himself in comprehending the second stone tablet, he forgot that everyone was undergoing the divine lightning body tempering in the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron. However, once Du Xiaofu forgot, he had comprehended the stone tablet for 2 years. Everyone had been in the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron for 20 years. Others had only undergone the divine lightning body tempering for a month. But now, Yu Wanli, Du Shui, Xiao Yingmeng, Du Mo1 and the others had undergone the divine lightning body tempering for 20 years. 20 years of divine lightning body tempering. Du Yu and Du Shui were only around 20 years old. After a while, in front of the mountain's courtyard. They're out. They're finally out. On the mountain peak, Mo1, Hao Bian, Kuang Niu and the others stretched their bodies. Their bodies wriggled and purple-gold lightning arcs fluctuated on their bodies. In the depths of their eyes, there was a purple-gold light. They've become so strong. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone and felt the aura that was spreading out from their bodies. He was shocked. Their aura was much stronger than before. It was soaring like a rocket. Du Yu, Du Shui, Mo1, Hao Bian and the others had all stepped into the martial emperor realm. Coincidentally, Du Yu, Du Shui, Mo1, Hao Bian, Xiao Yingmeng and the others had all reached the martial emperor realm. Chapter 10-13. As for third senior brother Yu Wanli, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. Third senior brother Yu Wanli's body had been refined by the purple gold profound lightning in the purple thunder profound cauldron and had already reached the honorable realm. More importantly, these 10 people had been refined by the purple gold profound lightning in the purple thunder profound cauldron for 20 years. The amount of purple gold profound lightning in their bodies had reached a terrifying level. Their martial veins and spiritual roots had improved greatly and their physical bodies had also reached a terrifying level. Du Xiaofu released his consciousness and could feel that the physical bodies of third senior brother Yu Wanli, Mo1, Du Yu and the others had reached an unfathomable level. Each of their bodies seemed to have produced something related to the purple gold profound lightning. Du Xiaofu was unable to find out exactly how many benefits they had obtained from the purple lightning profound cauldron. Perhaps only they themselves would know the answer. The purple gold profound lightning in the purple thunder profound cauldron had refined their bodies for 20 years. All of this had happened under invisible surveillance. The divine lightning had refined their bodies and Du Xiaofu had controlled the purple gold profound lightning at a level that everyone could endure. Otherwise, in 20 years, they would not have become stronger. Instead, they would have been blasted into pieces by the purple gold profound lightning. At this moment, these 10 people had gained great benefits. However, Du Xiaofu did not dare to casually put them into the purple thunder profound cauldron for another 10 years. Not everyone would gain more benefits the longer they stayed in the purple thunder profound cauldron. Everyone was fine. Du Xiaofu then went to Heaven-Eye Peak to meet his master, Gu Qingyang, and first senior brother, Jian Santong, late at night. I am at fault. Please forgive me, first senior brother. Du Xiaofu only just found out that when he had awakened, he had almost killed first senior brother. He hurriedly bowed and apologized. When he had awakened, Du Xiaofu was also surprised. He seemed to have felt something. There was an invisible sadness that penetrated his heart and he could not help but wake up. His whole person also fell into a special state of confusion. In the end, he did not even know that he had attacked first senior brother. Little junior brother didn't do it on purpose. What crime did I commit? On the other hand, little junior brother's reputation is well deserved. Your strength makes me feel ashamed. Jian Santong bitterly smiled. Looking at his junior brother before him, his eyes were full of shock. Xiaofu, are you going back early in the morning? Gu Qingyang asked Du Xiaofu. He was well aware of the current situation in the Stone Dragon Empire. He also knew that Du Xiaofu was worried about the desolate country. Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded and told his master, Gu Qingyang, about the alliance with the ancient sky sect. The divine lightning cauldron is with junior brother. Everyone can use the divine lightning to refine their bodies. When Jian Santong heard this, he was still in shock. His old face was like a wooden chicken. He had never thought that the divine lightning cauldron that countless people were looking for in the sealed ancient land a few years ago had already fallen into the hands of his junior brother. That's good. For now, it's beneficial to you. The world will probably fall into chaos. The desolate country and the 7-star hall will have no one to rely on. The ancient sky sect will be able to advance and retreat together. Elder Gu Qingyang put away his usual disrespect and said seriously, the divine lightning cauldron in the purple lightning cauldron is too important to the ancient sky sect. When Du Xiaofu was about to leave Tianmu Peak, it was already early in the morning. The darkness before dawn had just passed, and the first ray of sunlight rose from the horizon. The golden morning light shone on the peaks of the ancient sky sect. On Tianmu Peak, there were no less than 300 people descending. They were dozens of elders of the ancient sky sect, and more than 200 of the most talented disciples in the ancient sky sect. They were also the most trusted disciples of the younger generation. Hao Zhongwei, Hu Sankuan, Yan Mingze, and the other elders, Xiang Ling, Shui Ruhan, Yin Machen, Si Ruofeng, Ji Aoming, and the others were all among them. There were also dozens of elders. When Du Xiaofu looked at them, he found that they were actually more than a dozen venerable experts. Their cultivation auras were not ordinary venerable realm experts. However, Sima Muhan had already left the ancient sky sect. Du Xiaofu learned from Sima Taxing last night that Sima Muhan had been summoned by her mother and had gone to her grandmother's house to cultivate in seclusion. Everyone gathered on Tianmu Peak. They had all been summoned in a hurry. There was even the sect master personally leading the group. This surprised Si Ruofeng and the others, but they all stood quietly, not daring to ask. On the other hand, the dozen or so venerable experts seemed to know what was going on, but their eyes were secretly filled with shock. From Sima Taxing's introduction, Du Xiaofu learned that the dozen or so extraordinary venerable realm experts were all elders of the ancient sky sect. Some of them were even more senior than his master, Gu Qingyang. The rest were almost the same generation as his master, Gu Qingyang. Greetings, Grand Master Golden Rock. The leader of the dozen or so extraordinary venerable realm elders was Venerable Golden Rock, whom Du Xiaofu had already met. Back then, Venerable Golden Rock was extremely talented and famous in the central continent. However, he was focused on cultivating in seclusion and did not step into the sealed ancient land. Therefore, he did not receive the divine lightning body refinement. Good boy. Venerable Golden Rock nodded and looked at Du Xiaofu. His golden eyes were filled with admiration. Xiaofu, these people can be trusted. When you return to the desolate country this time, you might do something. They can also be considered as a force that you can use. You can discuss everything with Grand Master Golden Rock, Sima Taxing said to Du Xiaofu seriously. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and nodded. The ancient sky sect was really fast. In just a few hours, they had already prepared so many people to enter the purple thunder cauldron to receive the divine lightning body refinement. Du Xiaofu did not say anything more as he was in a hurry to return to the desolate country. He then called out the purple thunder cauldron in front of everyone's stunned gazes. He had everyone enter the purple thunder cauldron one by one. Of course, in order to make up for his apology to first senior brother and destroy his extraordinary ancient sword, Du Xiaofu naturally wanted to invite first senior brother to enter the purple thunder cauldron to receive the divine lightning body refinement. In fact, the 9 major powers have always wanted to get their hands on the area across the central continent, including our ancient sky sect. However, there has never been a suitable opportunity. The profound talisman sect and the sky serpent sect have already infiltrated the area. They have been restraining each other and have not had a suitable opportunity to take control. Sima Taxing finally looked at Du Xiaofu and sternly said, rumor has it that the area across the central continent has some history. The Sky Martial Academy in the Dark Forest has always been mysterious. At this moment, the Stone Dragon Empire should be almost completely occupied. If you want to do anything when you go back, you can do it without worry. The world is about to fall into chaos. I'm afraid that the Sky Serpent sect and the others will want to get their hands on that area and won't have the energy to care about it. This is the best time, but try not to expose your purple thunder cauldron. The purple thunder cauldron was too important. This time, the ancient sky sect had sent Venerable Golden Pang and a dozen extraordinary sovereigns to accompany him. The divine lightning body refinement was one of the reasons why the ancient sky sect wanted to protect the purple thunder cauldron. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. There was a slight fluctuation in the depths of his eyes. He then nodded and did not say anything. After bidding farewell to his master and third senior brother, Du Xiaofu got on one of the ancient sky sect's flying lion mounts and was ready to leave. Accompanying him were Du Yu, Du Shui, Gu Zong, Xiao Yingmeng, Mo1, Feng Xiangyu, and a dozen others who came out of the Purple Thunder Cauldron. They were all disciples of the ancient Heaven Sect's World Society. Not only were they members of the ancient Heaven Sect's World Society, but they had also joined the World Society for a long time. Gu Zong was even the Hall Master of the World Society's Scarlet Fire Hall. Roar! Everyone left on the flying demon beast. The demon lion flapped its wings and disappeared into the void with a huge storm. This brat even poached the ancient sky sect's disciples. Looks like we have to be careful in the future. Sima taking Xing muttered as he watched the disappearing figure. How could Sima Ta Xing not know that Mu Jiejia, Mo1, Judge Hao, Gu Zong, and other extraordinary sovereigns had joined the World Society? Especially when he felt that the aura of Mo1 and the others had strengthened so much in such a short time. It was not much weaker than Shenling, Shui Ruhan, and the others. It was almost as strong as Yin Machin, Si Ruofeng, and the others. It might even be a little stronger. This made Sima Ta Xing's heart ache. Sect Master, if they want to join the World Society, then let them. In any case, they're disciples of my ancient Heaven Sect. Don't forget, that brat Du Xiaofu is also a disciple of my ancient Heaven Sect, said Enforcer Hao with a faint smile. Chapter 10:14. Yes, even that kid is a disciple of the ancient Heaven Sect. Sima Ta Xing smiled slightly, and then a complicated look flashed through his eyes. He said softly, it's just that that kid is indifferent to the position of sect master of the ancient Heaven Sect. It seems that the entire ancient Heaven Sect is not enough to fill his heart. The world will be in chaos. Maybe he can really make a name for himself. After leaving the ancient Heaven Sect, Du Xiaofu moved the purple lightning profound cauldron into the desolate ancient space again. Then, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the demon lion's back. He pondered for a while and began to meditate. He had just broken through and needed to stabilize his cultivation. After a while, Du Xiaofu's body was covered in golden light. He was meditating and comprehending the weapon Tao that he had comprehended from the second stone tablet. The Stone Dragon Empire was invaded by the armies of 8 countries. Although they had the support of several old kings, they were still forced to retreat. Fortunately, the general and Gu Xinyan returned. They managed to hold the Stone Dragon Empire back until now. The armies of the 8 empires attacked from all directions. Compared to the 3 empires that had joined forces, their strength was undoubtedly much stronger. Among the 8 countries, there were 1 valley, 2 churches, 3 sects, 3 schools, and 9 major forces. Even the general couldn't hold on. If the 8 countries didn't seem to have some scruples, they would have conquered the Stone Dragon Empire long ago. However, they couldn't hold on any longer. The armies of 8 countries finally captured Dragon City. The final battle took place outside the fierce Tiger Gorge. Countless armies killed each other. The intensity of the battle paled in comparison to the desolate country's attack on the Stone Dragon Empire. It was said that the battle lasted for a day and a night. Blood gathered into a lake and dyed the mountains into a blood island. The blood-red mist and evil aura hovered above Dragon City for 3 days and 3 nights without dissipating. In that battle, countless warriors and the last army of the Stone Dragon Empire fell. Their mournful cries resounded through the 9 heavens. It was also said that the clansmen of the Du household appeared in the final battle. The people of the Du household were guarding the imperial capital, Dragon City, but they were powerless to stop anything. Instead, they lost many people. Finally, under the escort of several cultivators who were not weak, the Du Palace's clansmen retreated, their whereabouts once again unknown. Dragon City was finally conquered. Wherever the army passed, they plundered and plundered. It was not unusual for them to burn, kill, and plunder. This caused the people of the huge Dragon City to panic, and countless people thought of ways to escape. Some forces immediately attached themselves to the 8 countries and helped them commit their crimes. After that battle, the Stone Dragon Empire truly ceased to exist. The armies of the 8 nations captured the imperial capital, Dragon City. The entire Stone Dragon Empire fell into the hands of the 8 nations. Our Stone Dragon Empire has existed for thousands of years. Our destiny has finally run out. The entire country was occupied. There were old people who cried, and there were young people who clenched their fists. But all of this was already too late to reverse the situation. Where's our brave God King? Why hasn't he appeared? Why is the desolate country not willing to send their troops? If the desolate country was willing to send their troops, they would not have to fear the armies of the 8 countries. Is the brave God King really that heartless? You don't know. The brave God King isn't even in the desolate country. He doesn't know anything about this. The brave God King had no interest in the Stone Dragon Empire. He didn't want to become the emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. At least the desolate country has been taking in refugees, providing them with food, water, and medicine. They have already taken good care of the Stone Dragon Empire. Countless people have been protected. Some people cried. The brave God King, the last hope of the Stone Dragon Empire, did not appear at the last moment. This made people feel sad and resentful. There were also people who were grateful. After all, the desolate country's actions had already spread throughout the Stone Dragon Empire. If it wasn't for the desolate country's protection, who knew how many innocent people would have suffered? The desolate country, from the dark forest to the edge of the Lonling Prefecture city and even the edge of the barbaric Beast Mountain range, was already filled with people. In 2 years, countless refugees from the Stone Dragon Empire had flooded in. Countless forces had moved to the desolate country, and a new round of city construction had begun. However, the Stone City had always been closed. Other than the residents of the Stone City, no one was allowed to enter. However, the surroundings of the Stone City had changed drastically. The surrounding buildings were tall and connected to the barbaric Beast Mountain range. The small Stone City had now become a huge city. Destroyed, it still destroyed. Blood flowed like a river. In the main hall of the Du family, Du Jixiong and Du Zhenwu's eyes dimmed. At this moment, the core members of the World Society and the Du family were in the main hall of the Du family. How are the old kings? After a while, Du Zhenwu asked Du Yunlong, who was in the main hall. The old kings are seriously injured and are still grieving. If it wasn't for the general and the others who brought them back, I'm afraid the old kings would have died for the Stone Dragon Empire. Du Yunlong said. His eyes were filled with respect for the old kings. The old kings had sacrificed themselves for the Stone Dragon Empire. They were so unyielding and loyal that people couldn't help but respect them. If it wasn't for the general and Gu Xinyan who brought them back to the desolate country, the old kings would have died. In the main hall, Du Shaoqing was leaning on a chair in the main hall. She suddenly stood up and sat down. Her ethereal eyes rippled a little before a smile appeared on her face. Beside Du Shaoqing, a little golden macaque was leaning lazily on a chair. The hair on its head was colorful and the aura it exuded was like a supreme being. Its pale golden eyes looked at the people in the main hall and said, Du Xiaofu is back. Hearing this, the people in the main hall were shocked. No one doubted the little golden macaque's words. Figures immediately rushed out of the main hall. Roar, after a while, outside the Du family, a huge lion demon flapped its wings and flew over. The young man in the lead was wearing a purple robe and his hair fluttered in the wind. The Rock Emperor is back. Soon, the entire stone city was in an uproar. The news of the Rock Emperor's return spread throughout the desolate country. Destroyed. Is the Stone Dragon Empire finally destroyed? In the main hall of the Du family, Du Xiaofu clenched his fists tightly after hearing the news of the Stone Dragon Empire's destruction half a month ago. His eyes were filled with a complicated expression. In the main hall, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Mysterious Wirm King, Mu Mingqing, Third Fatty Wan, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Solitary Sword King, Li Shui, Morong Yorua, and the others all looked at Du Xiaofu, waiting for Du Xiaofu to say something. Where are Brother Qing Chun and Elder Yi? Du Xiaofu swept his gaze across the main hall and asked everyone. He didn't see Big Brother Zhen Qing Chun or Medicine King Yi Wuming. Brother Qing Chun and Yi Wuming are both in seclusion, Du Xiaoqing said to Du Xiaofu. I'll go check on the old kings first. You can all leave. Du Xiaofu didn't say anything and left the main hall. Morong Yorua and Li Shui glanced at each other as they watched Du Xiaofu leave. They understood each other's intentions and left the main hall. It's about time. Let's start the arrangements. Morong Yorua said to Li Shui as she looked up at the sky in the corridor. Sister Yorua, do you really want to do this? Li Shui looked at Morong Yorua worriedly and said, what if the president, someone has to bear the responsibility? Someone has to do something. That person is me. Morong Yorua interrupted Li Shui and smiled, you know what we're doing the most, so you should know that we have to do this. You have to help look after him in the future. Li Shui didn't say anything else. She nodded and left. The old kings were arranged to stay in a side courtyard of the Du family. When Du Xiaofu appeared in the side courtyard, he saw the generals, Gu Xinyan, Hua Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, Ghost Child, Ouyang Shuang, and the others who were waiting for the old kings. They had just heard the news of Du Xiaofu's return from the Du family's disciples. Therefore, when they saw Du Xiaofu, the generals were not surprised. Instead, they all looked happy. The old kings are grieving. We couldn't stop worrying, so we had to keep watching. Perhaps they will listen to you. Gu Xinyan said to Du Xiaofu. In her beautiful eyes, the light fluctuated slightly, causing ripples in the hearts of those who looked at it. It's good that you're back. My grandfather and the others won't listen to us. Ouyang Shuang frowned slightly and said to Du Xiaofu. I'll go check on the old kings. Du Xiaofu nodded and took a deep breath. There seemed to be a complicated look in his eyes. Then, he walked into the hall. In the side courtyard, the North Vanquishing Prince, the South Vanquishing Prince, the East Vanquishing Prince, and the West Vanquishing Prince were all there. There were also Ouyang Ling and some other kings and generals. There were more than 20 people. They were the last remaining powerhouses of the Stone Dragon Empire. Seeing Du Xiaofu, Yuan Shanshan greeted him. She was like a loving mother, carefully sizing up Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, you're finally back. I heard that you've been meditating in the ancient heaven sect. Aunt Shan, Uncle Ling, Du Xiaofu smiled at Yuan Shanshan and Ouyang Ling. Then, his eyes swept across the hall. Xiaofu, you're back. Everyone in the hall stood up. The North Vanquishing Prince, the South Vanquishing Prince, and the East Vanquishing Prince stepped forward. The grief on their pale faces couldn't be concealed. Their eyes were bloodshot. They hadn't changed out of their armor. It was stained with blood, and their hair was slightly messy. Grandpa Xie, greetings to the old kings. Du Xiaofu bowed. Looking at the North Vanquishing Prince and the others, he could clearly understand how the Stone Dragon Empire was destroyed. These old kings who were loyal to the Stone Dragon Empire were heartbroken. If back then, Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. Guilt rose in his heart. He even found it difficult to face the old king who had protected him back then. Chapter 10:15. I'm glad you're fine. The North vanquishing king squeezed out a smile. Xie Fei was by his side the whole time. Grandpa Xie, Du Xiaofu didn't know what to say as he looked at the old man in front of him. You don't have to say anything. I understand. The North vanquishing king's pale face carried a smile. I may be old, but my heart isn't. This has nothing to do with you. You don't have to feel guilty. If it wasn't for the desolate country, I don't know how many innocent people would have suffered. Du Xiaofu walked up to the old man and helped him sit down. He said, Grandpa Xie, if there's anything I can do, I'll do it. The North vanquishing king raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. After a few seconds, he glanced at the other kings and said to Du Xiaofu, if you really want to, then don't let the Stone Dragon Empire fall into the hands of the 8 countries. We've already discussed this. The other kings will fully support you. Du Xiaofu looked at the North vanquishing king, the East vanquishing king, and the South vanquishing king in front of him. He didn't say anything. Xiaofu, we've already thought about it. Now that the Stone Dragon Empire has fallen into the hands of the 8 countries, if you really want to, then let the Stone Dragon Empire fall into the hands of the desolate country. After all, the desolate country's surname is Du. They have the same bloodline as the Du household. It's better than letting it fall into the hands of outsiders. The South vanquishing king said to Du Xiaofu. The North vanquishing king raised his head and gently patted Du Xiaofu's hand. He said earnestly, Xiaofu, if you have the ability now, remember to avenge the dead souls of the Stone Dragon Empire. It'll be the wish of us old men. We won't be able to avenge the dead souls of the Stone Dragon Empire, I'll remember this. They'll have to pay the price one day. Du Xiaofu nodded. His tone was flat, but his clear eyes were firm, and a wisp of sharpness flashed past before it was silently restrained. Half a month had passed since the destruction of the Stone Dragon Empire. The old kings had calmed down a little. Du Xiaofu felt that the old kings should be fine. He chatted with them for a while and urged them to take some pills to heal their injuries before leaving. At this moment, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the Stone City. Murong Yorua of the World Society took advantage of the Rock Emperor's closed-door cultivation to bring chaos to the desolate country, hindering the dispatch of troops to rescue the Stone Dragon Empire, causing the Stone Dragon Empire to be invaded by foreign enemies. Blood flowed like rivers, and wails were everywhere. I am hereby expelled from the World Society. The Rock Emperor decrees to take in and rescue all refugees. When this news came out, it immediately caused an uproar in Stone City, and the news quickly spread. The strange thing was that this news seemed to have spread to many places within the Stone Dragon Empire at the same time. The Rock Emperor has returned. Our Courage King has returned. It turns out that everything was caused by Murong Yorua. The Courage King didn't abandon us. As soon as this news spread, the mournful Stone Dragon Empire was in an uproar. Some people who were in despair suddenly felt hopeful. We begged the Rock Emperor to dispatch troops to reclaim the Stone Dragon Empire. We begged the Rock Emperor to avenge the fallen heroes of the Stone Dragon Empire. The Stone Dragon Empire has been occupied by the 8 countries. We would rather the Stone Dragon Empire belong to the desolate country than fall into the hands of the 8 countries. The 8 countries are jackals. They burned, killed, plundered, and bathed thousands of miles in blood. We must avenge our country. We are willing to belong to the desolate country and avenge our country with the Courage King. Discussions broke out all over the Stone Dragon Empire. Some people seemed to be lobbying in secret. The desolate country was founded by the Courage King, Du Xiaofu. Now that the Stone Dragon Empire had been destroyed, the people were stirred up and undercurrents were surging. Outside the Stone City, countless refugees of the Stone Dragon Empire began to gather in the desolate country. They were begging the Rock Emperor to dispatch troops. We begged the Rock Emperor to dispatch troops. We are willing to belong to the Stone Dragon Empire and avenge the fallen heroes of the Stone Dragon Empire. Countless sound waves reverberated through the sky, reverberating above the stone city. At this moment, only Du Xiaofu and Li Shui were in the side hall of the Du residence. Nonsense! You are all making trouble. Du Xiaofu shouted. Light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He exuded a majestic aura that made people tremble. President, please calm down. This is all my and Sister Yorua's idea. Please punish us. Li Shui's face turned pale. She immediately knelt on the ground and looked up at Du Xiaofu. She gritted her teeth and said, "But President, Sister Yorua and I didn't do anything wrong. The Stone Dragon Empire has been destroyed. We are dispatching troops now. It has nothing to do with the Stone Dragon Empire." Then you did make a decision without permission. Du Xiaofu glared at Li Shui. There was a faint trace of fierceness in his eyes. Under this pressure, Li Shui felt oppressed and her body trembled. Then he looked at the trembling Li Shui and a trace of gentleness flashed in his eyes. He helped Li Shui up and said, "You didn't do anything wrong, but you shouldn't pave the way for me. Where is Yorua now?" "I don't know. Sister Yorua has already left the stone city." Li Shui shook her head. She couldn't help but tremble under this invisible pressure. She was even more shocked. In just a few years, the ferocious young man in Tianwu Academy had grown to such a level. She did all this for me. She was paving the way for me. Du Xiaofu sighed. "Kid, it's good that you know." A familiar voice sounded and a figure quietly appeared in the hall. It was the holy array prodigy, Zhen Qingchen. He looked at Du Xiaofu and his vulgar yet charming eyes were filled with surprise. He said, I didn't expect you to have broken through to martial honor and 8-star. I just broke through recently." Du Xiaofu smiled and nodded as he looked at the figure in front of him. He said, "Brother Qingchen, weren't you in closed-door cultivation?" "I went into closed-door cultivation because I couldn't find anything to do." "You weren't around either." Zhen Qingchen rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. He then gestured to Li Shui and said, "Girl, you can leave now. Do what you need to do. I'll talk to this guy." "Yes." Li Shui smiled and immediately turned to leave. "I'm telling you, kid. I've already become sworn siblings with that lass Yorua. She's my little sister. You can't wrong her. In the entire desolate country, those two lasses are the only ones I like." Zhen Qingchen rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu again as he looked at Li Shui's back. "You've become sworn siblings with Yorua?" Du Xiaofu couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that. What's so strange about that? Zhen Qingchen didn't think much of it. He then looked at Du Xiaofu and his expression suddenly became stern. He said, "To achieve great things, you need the right time, the right place, and the right people. Now that everything is in place, what do you plan to do?" Aside from the desolate country and the original Stone Dragon Empire, there are a total of 8 empires nearby. They've all come this time. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. There was a faint glint in his eyes. He said softly, "Today, they dared to attack the Stone Dragon Empire. Tomorrow, they'll dare to attack the desolate country. They're just afraid now." Those 8 empires seem to have the shadows of some colossal forces behind them. Zhen Qingchen said. Those colossal forces seem to be busy with other matters. If we wait until they're done, I'm afraid the desolate country will be at a disadvantage. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Master Sima Taxing had already said that there would be great chaos in the world. Those forces wouldn't spend too much effort on this place. Moreover, the desolate country and the ancient heaven sect had formed an alliance. Although this matter was still confidential, at least there was now a barrier between the desolate country and the world. "Don't tell me you plan to," Zhen Qingchen looked at Du Xiaofu with some fluctuations in his eyes. He seemed to have guessed something. They'll have to pay the price sooner or later. Du Xiaofu smiled. It was as if he had already predicted all of this and that this day would happen sooner or later. Brat, I'm telling you, the Imperial Dragon Qi is good stuff. Every Imperial Palace should have some. It's just a matter of concentration. Don't waste it. Zhen Qingchun said. Du Xiaofu said, 8 empires. There's not much time left. Brother Qingchun, are you interested? Being able to absorb some of the Imperial Dragon Qi will be of great help in breaking through to the next level. It's good to absorb some. Leave one to me. Zhen Qingchun's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. However, this smile made his wretched eyes even more intense. Chapter 10:16. Night fell. Stone City, Du family's back mountain. An ancient aura filled the air as hundreds of figures emerged from the distorted space. Boom, as the figures emerged, the vast aura solidified in the air. Everyone's eyes were filled with joy. These figures were the Venerable Golden Rock, Jian Santong, Shui Ruhan, Yin Machen, Hu Sankuan, and the others who had obtained the divine lightning body tempering from the purple thunder profound cauldron. Everyone's strength had improved significantly after obtaining the divine lightning body tempering. Lu Ling, Yin Machen, Si Ruofeng, and the others' cultivation bases had soared. Grandmaster, I'm afraid there are some matters that require the ancient sky sect's help, Du Xiaofu said to the Venerable Golden Rock. Arrange it. The Venerable Golden Rock nodded as if he already knew. There are still 5 empires left. I want the Manchu's experts to make a trip there. I don't want the Imperial Dragon Qi, but I want the seals of the empires to be sent to the Dragon City Imperial Palace in 7 days, Du Xiaofu said. That's fast. Then we can only make a trip there ourselves. Although the Imperial Dragon Qi in the Imperial Palace isn't much, it's still good stuff. We can't waste it. An extraordinary venerable old man from the ancient heaven sect smiled. There was a hint of passion in his eyes, as if he was eager to try. It was as if he had long been prepared. I'll stay by your side for the time being. I'll only show myself when necessary. The Venerable Golden Rock said to Du Xiaofu. He didn't plan to leave Du Xiaofu's side. For the sake of the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron's safety, he had to follow them secretly. Especially after the divine lightning body tempering, the Venerable Golden Rock was even more determined to protect the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron. He couldn't allow any accidents to happen. Is that so? All right. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Although it might be inconvenient for the Venerable Golden Rock to follow him, there were still many benefits. At least he would be much safer. Du Xiaofu turned to the Venerable Golden Rock and said, Grandmaster, as for the other experts of the Manchu, help them travel around the Stone Dragon Empire. Venerable Golden Rock nodded as if he knew what Du Xiaofu wanted to do. A few moments later, several silhouettes flew out from the back of the Du family's mountain, and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Let's go there too, Jianhu Empire. Only Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and the Venerable Golden Rock were left on the mountain. Even the Phantom, the Beast Killer, the Evil Soul, and the Bloodvine Killer were not around. Roar, the Little Tiger roared. At this moment it was already at the Nirvana realm of the Martial Emperor realm. It transformed into its original form and its speed increased greatly. It brought a few people with it towards the Tianhu Empire. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the Little Tiger's back under the moonlight. He humbly asked for guidance from Venerable Golden Rock. The Venerable Golden Rock told Du Xiaofu everything he knew, and he was even more shocked. Not long after, he smiled bitterly. He felt that he had nothing left to impart to Du Xiaofu. On the other hand, Du Xiaofu had answered many of his questions regarding the mysteries of the golden-winged Great Rock. Some of his bottlenecks had been cleared, and he was enlightened. 3 days later, in the capital of the Tianhu Empire, the vast palace was enveloped in the golden morning light, and the whole world was covered in golden radiance. In the depths of the palace, in a huge golden palace, a middle-aged man sat cross-legged. His body was covered in golden light, as if there was a golden dragon circling around him. He was emitting a powerful aura. He was the emperor of the Qianhu Empire, and he was in charge of the palace. He cultivated with the imperial dragon qi of the palace. As he breathed, there was a dragon-shaped golden airflow. His aura was extremely powerful. Although he was only at the martial emperor realm, the imperial dragon qi of the palace was enough to make ordinary honorable realm experts wary. Who is trespassing in the palace? Suddenly, the emperor opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with golden light, and his voice shook the entire palace. Swoosh swoosh, in an instant, many auras fluctuated in the palace. Many figures flew up into the air, and their auras dissipated. Bang bang bang. There were low sounds, and in an instant, countless bodies exploded. Blood splattered everywhere, and some bodies fell to the ground, destroying a large part of the palace. How dare you! The middle-aged emperor's voice was like a dragon's roar. He appeared in the sky above the palace and looked at a young man in a purple robe and a young man in a black robe who ignored the protection of the palace's talisman array. There was also a beautiful young lady and a golden monkey. Who are you? You killed my guards and trespassed in my palace. You are courting death. The middle-aged emperor's eyes were cold and his eyes glowed with killing intent. He didn't care much about these youngsters. If it wasn't for the fact that almost all the experts of the Qianhu Empire had gone to the Stone Dragon Empire to fight for benefits, these youngsters wouldn't even be able to enter the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Dragon Qi of the palace is a treasure, but it is not rich. Du Xiaofu said indifferently. He did not put the emperor in his eyes at all. Carefully sensing the aura of the young man in a purple robe, the middle-aged emperor suddenly realized something. His body trembled. Although the other party was young, he did not seem to be simple. Who are you, and what do you want? The middle-aged sovereign emperor asked Du Xiaofu. Sensing that aura, the killing intent and rage he had just a moment ago had turned into a cautious one. Du Xiaofu from the Huang country is here to kill you. Du Xiaofu said. His voice was sharp, and it echoed throughout the capital of the Qianhu Empire. The killing intent in his eyes was not concealed, and he walked towards the middle-aged emperor. Du Xiaofu, you are the demon king Du Xiaofu. The expression in the middle-aged emperor's eyes changed greatly, and he began to tremble for no reason. The name of demon king Du Xiaofu was far from the central continent, and he was also well aware of it. Du Xiaofu was a supreme heaven's prideling, and he dared to kill the lord of the Great Will sect and the Divine Light Court. He was also a fierce demon king who could single-handedly kill tens of millions of soldiers. The demon king Du Xiaofu has come to our Qianhu Empire. Inside and outside the palace, many of the guards were shocked, and some were secretly trembling. There will be no more Qianhu Empire in the future. Du Xiaofu soared into the sky and appeared in front of the middle-aged emperor. With every step, a terrifying aura swept across the void, turning into a dazzling light that shrouded the sky. This is the palace, and I have the Imperial Dragon Qi. Kill! The middle-aged emperor shouted. With the Imperial Dragon Qi as his backing, he summoned a golden Imperial Jade Seal, which was similar to the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal of the Stone Dragon Empire. He activated the Imperial Dragon Qi and threw out the Imperial Jade Seal, which turned into a few golden dragons that soared into the sky. Break! Du Xiaofu stepped forward coldly. He didn't even stop in the void. He waved his purple robe and his long sleeves turned into golden wings of the Great Peng. Golden light flowed like a golden tide. With an unstoppable force, it destroyed the illusory figures of the golden dragons. The middle-aged emperor was shaken to the point where he spat out blood. The Imperial Jade Seal is not bad. Du Xiaofu soared into the sky, waved his hand, and grabbed the Imperial Jade Seal, ignoring the Imperial Dragon Qi. How can you not be afraid of the Imperial Dragon Qi? The middle-aged emperor's face changed, as if he had seen a ghost. The demon king Du Xiaofu was not afraid of the Imperial Dragon Qi, and he was not afraid of the Imperial Dragon Imperial Jade Seal, which contained the fate and faith of the Tianhu Empire. Run! After losing his trump card, the emperor immediately turned and ran. Kill! Du Xiaofu struck again. A lightning finger shot out like a thunderbolt tearing through the sky. Following which, the miserable shriek of the middle-aged sovereign emperor could be heard. His body was penetrated by the thunderbolt in mid-air and turned into a bloody mist. An emperor was killed in the blink of an eye in the imperial palace. The emperor has been killed. Inside and outside the imperial palace, countless people's eyes trembled, and their hair stood on end. It was unbelievable. Kill without mercy. Du Xiaofu said softly. As his voice fell, the little tiger's figure shot out, like a violent black tornado. Black runes shone with golden light as they swept in all directions. In the sky above the imperial palace, there were screams, and the few martial lord realm cultivators were all killed. Walala! In mid-air, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and activated the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. The materialized Imperial Palace Dragon Aura was then devoured. Ao, in the Imperial Palace, there were faint dragon roars, and golden light exploded. Waves of golden aura were visible to the naked eye, like golden spiritual snakes, and they all rushed into Du Xiaofu's body. Kacha, at this moment, in the land of the Tianhu Empire, the mountains trembled, the mountains cracked, and the abyss quietly split open. In the deep mountains, towering ancient trees withered, and the spiritual springs dried up. Ao, in the depths of countless mountains, the roars of beasts were endless, and they let out cries of fear. Chapter 1017. 4 hours later, the imperial palace's draconic qi dried up and was completely devoured by Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was surrounded by a golden radiance. His aura was powerful and majestic, and he seemed to be able to transform the fate of a country for his own use. I found a lot of good stuff. Du Xiaoyao rushed out from the imperial palace and easily found the imperial palace's treasury. From Du Xiaoyao's smiling golden eyes, he must have found a lot of treasures. The entire country's collection was completely looted by Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaoqing. Third young master, it's almost done. The little tiger withdrew his true form. His black eyes were fierce and fierce. At this moment, all the stronger cultivators in the imperial palace had been dealt with by him. There was no suspense at all. Let's go. Du Xiaofu nodded. Then, the 4 of them flew into the air and left. The imperial palace of the Tianhu Empire was bathed in blood. The emperor was killed, and all the strong cultivators were killed. Is this true? Is our Tianhu Empire really going to be destroyed? The Tianhu Empire's capital was in an uproar. The demon king Du Xiaofu's appearance had swept through the imperial palace in such a way. It was too shocking. The news spread and the Tianhu Empire was shaken. The news also spread quickly. In the following 2 days, all kinds of news spread from the surrounding empires. Strong cultivators had arrived at the various empires' capitals. They were all extraordinary venerable level cultivators who attacked directly. They swept through the imperial palaces and killed the emperors. They stole the draconic qi from the imperial palace and left after leaving behind the name of the desolate country. This news spread in all directions. The clouds were stirred. I know. That was the demon king Du Xiaofu's attack. It was not difficult for some to guess that it was related to the desolate country. Naturally, it was the demon king Du Xiaofu's attack. He had directly given the order to kill the emperors of the various empires. The clouds were stirred. Countless people were shocked. The imperial palaces of several empires were destroyed at the same time. This was shocking. The demon king Du Xiaofu attacked 8 countries at the same time. It went without saying that he had subjugated the 8 countries. How domineering was this? Du Xiaofu's figure was already in Dragon City. He was going to the Stone Dragon Empire's palace. Probing, Du Xiaofu's soul. Many. The palace. The palace. It has been. 8 countries was the stone. 8 countries in a stalemate was the stone. Was the 8 countries. At this moment, the 8 countries were still in a heated debate. Everyone wanted to get more benefits. More importantly, there was the Bice giant, the Bice the giants giantesses. Those behemoths were the ones who were truly arguing with each other. They were also the ones who had truly destroyed the Stone Dragon Empire. Roar! Roar! A tiger's roar resounded as a huge black tiger flapped its wings and soared into the sky. A purple-robed young man stood on it. That's the brave God King. That powerful black tiger is his mount. Someone in Dragon City noticed the black tiger Guai. Their hearts trembled. The brave God King is back. Is he here for revenge? The imperial capital is filled with the 8 countries' experts. They won't be easy to deal with. Some people were worried. They clenched their fists. They hated the 8 countries, but more than that, they were afraid of them. As the news of the brave God King's appearance spread, it attracted the attention of the entire Dragon City. Everyone rushed to the streets and headed towards the palace. They had a premonition that something big was going to happen in the palace with the appearance of the brave God King in Dragon City. Although many parts of the palace were in ruins, it was still in good condition. The palace used to be majestic. It was filled with imperial dragon qi. But now, the palace was desolate. That meant that its luck had run out. Who are you? Tell me your name. You are not allowed to trespass into the palace. Otherwise, you will be killed. When Du Xiaofu finally appeared in front of the palace, the guards on the city walls shouted and stopped Du Xiaofu and the others from entering. The guards on the city walls were on high alert. Many people were drawing their bows. That was an extraordinary spiritual arrow. It was made by a talisman master and was engraved with talisman patterns. It was specially used to deal with the other party's experts during a battle. A turtle dove occupying a magpie's nest. Die! Du Xiaoqing shouted and attacked. Green and red flames sprayed out, burning the space to the point of distorting. A blazing aura filled the air, destroying all those who tried to stop her. Who dares to trespass? Are you courting death? The commotion and aura immediately attracted many experts. They all rushed towards Du Xiaofu and the others. Du Xiaoqing stood on the back of the little tiger. She waved her hand and the green and red flames spread out from the void. Eventually, many experts were engulfed in a sea of fire and were burned to ashes. There were endless screams and wails, but no one escaped. Who dares to trespass? Tell me your name. Finally, there was a surge of aura in the palace that made Du Xiaofu look up slightly. Then, someone shouted and hundreds of experts appeared one after another. They blocked in front of the little tiger. Du Xiaofu stood on little tiger's back with a cold expression on his face. His gaze swept across the crowd, revealing a hint of sharpness. Demon King Du Xiaofu. It's Du Xiaofu. Someone in the crowd immediately recognized Du Xiaofu. During the Heavenly Talents competition, the figure of the purple-robed youth in the spacetime talisman array had left a deep impact on many people. It was hard to forget that young purple figure. The 3 words Du Xiaofu immediately caused everyone to be stunned. Some of them even revealed looks of horror in their eyes. Back then, Du Xiaofu had killed tens of millions of soldiers from the Stone Dragon Empire. He had killed the martial venerables of the Divine Light Court and slashed the disciples of the Great Will sect with his sword. Du Xiaofu, what do you want? An old man asked. He seemed to be extremely wary of the purple-robed youth. The people of the Sky Snake Sect, Mysterious Underworld Sect, Spirit Sky Valley, and Mysterious Talisman Sect can leave. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Du Xiaofu ignored the old man. He sensed that the old man's aura carried traces of the imperial palace. He seemed to be the emperor of some empire. Many people trembled when they heard Du Xiaofu's words. His words were calm, but they were filled with endless dominance and sharpness. The young man was already imposing without being angry. He had great power and could make people tremble. Humph, do you think you can rely on the desolate country? The old man was obviously of high status. Being ignored by Du Xiaofu at this moment, his old face was a little embarrassed. He immediately gritted his teeth and looked at Du Xiaofu. Noisy, Du Xiaofu didn't say anything unnecessary. With a wave of his hand, a purple-gold lightning surged out and condensed into a purple-gold thunderbolt. With a terrifying momentum, it instantly blasted the old man into ashes in a situation where he couldn't block or dodge at all. Such decisiveness in killing caused the surrounding gazes to change, and they all trembled inwardly. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was indeed worthy of his reputation. Young man, you have a strong killing intent. It seems that I have to help you resolve the evil in your heart. An old man rushed out with a gloomy face. The light around his body was dazzling and there was a murderous aura spreading. The void around his body suddenly twisted and solidified. Whoosh! In the next instant, the old man's hand seals were formed and there was a strange light in his eyes. Then, a talisman turned into the shadow of a huge black serpent with a single horn and shot towards Du Xiaofu. That aura seemed to be filled with destruction. It was terrifyingly powerful. Mysterious Martial Honorable, the aura of the Sky Serpent Sect, Du Xiaofu raised his head and there was coldness in his eyes. He leaped into the air and faced the huge black serpent with a single horn. Instead of retreating, he advanced. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu clapped his hands and golden talisman runes swept out like a tide. With an overbearing aura, they easily destroyed the huge black serpent shadow. This update is late. Apologies. The update will be completed today. Chapter 10:18. Bang! Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of the elder from the Sky Snake Sect like a ghost, surrounded by faint purple lightning. At the same time, Du Xiaofu raised his hand and lightly punched the elder's chest. This elder was an expert from the Sky Snake Sect. His background in the Sky Snake Sect was not simple. He was a powerful figure among the elders of the Sky Snake Manchu. This time, this elder had come to the destroyed Stone Dragon Empire in order to fight for more benefits for the Sky Snake Sect. It was rumored that the Stone Dragon Empire's vicinity was an ancient land with legends. However, at this moment, as Du Xiaofu's fist landed, the old man's body immediately turned into a bloody mist before the fist without any ability to resist. A mysterious martial honorable from the Sky Snake Sect was blown apart with a single punch. Everyone was shocked. Their hair stood on end and their hair stood on end. At this moment, everyone could feel the dense killing intent and majestic aura of destruction from Du Xiaofu's body. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that not only did it oppress the physical body, but it also made one's primordial spirit tremble. Terrifying energy flowed with lightning like a vast sea of lightning. It was hair-raising. Then, it dissipated into the sky and stopped abruptly. How can he be so strong? All the experts were shocked. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was even more terrifying than they had imagined. He was actually able to blow apart a mysterious martial honorable expert with a single punch. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, I'll kill you. Don't test my patience. Du Xiaofu said. His gaze swept over all the experts present. It was domineering, sharp, and incomparably disdainful. It even carried a kind of contempt. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the surrounding people's gazes trembled. This demon king Du Xiaofu was too domineering and powerful. Within the crowd, an elder's eyes moved. He had a profound expression on his face. He was an elder of the profound talisman sect. Soon after, he quietly backed off a bit. Du Xiaofu, you are a disciple of the ancient heaven sect and the seven-star hall. Are you here today to represent the ancient heaven sect and the seven-star hall? An old woman stepped forward and asked Du Xiaofu. This old woman was an elder of the profound underworld sect. She came to the destroyed Stone Dragon Empire to fight for more benefits for the profound underworld sect. I represent myself and have nothing to do with the seven-star hall of the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu spoke. He indifferently glanced at the old woman and probed her aura. She was also a mysterious martial supreme. This caused Du Xiaofu's indifferent face to be secretly puzzled. For the sake of a small empire like the Stone Dragon Empire, these behemoths had actually mobilized experts of this level. It seemed like they were making a mountain out of a molehill. If not, then this matter would not be so simple. Are you representing yourself and your desolate country? The old woman asked. She knew that the desolate country belonged to the demon king, Du Xiaofu. Previously, for the sake of the desolate country, Du Xiaofu had even killed hundreds of disciples of the Great Will sect. She had long heard of this matter. This old woman also knew that Du Xiaofu was extraordinary. Furthermore, the sacred array prodigy was in the desolate country. Hence, the profound underworld sect had deliberately not touched the desolate country this time. If it were any other time, the old woman would not have taken Du Xiaofu seriously. Even if Du Xiaofu was a supreme genius, he was still young. After all, she was a mysterious martial supreme. However, the old woman had just witnessed a mysterious martial supreme being blown apart by a single punch. Her heart was filled with shock and she did not dare to be careless. Could it be that your desolate country wants to go against the four great mountain sects of the profound underworld sect, the Sky Serpent sect, the Spirit Sky Valley and the profound Talisman sect? To tell you the truth, these 8 countries are also the forces of the 4 great mountain sects. The old woman looked at Du Xiaofu in front of her and spoke with a sinister voice. Although she was afraid of the demon king, Du Xiaofu, she still had the profound underworld sect and the 3 great mountain sects behind her. They were her support. She did not believe that anyone in the central region would dare to touch the 4 great mountain sects at the same time. Are you threatening me? Du Xiaofu walked towards the old woman step by step. His face was still indifferent and his expression was calm. However, the arrogance and domineering sharpness from his body had suppressed everyone present. What are you trying to do? The old woman's heart trembled and her primordial spirit trembled. She could not help but take a step back. Slap! Du Xiaofu waved his hand across the air, causing the space in front of him to distort. In an instant, a huge palm print appeared on the face of the old lady from the profound Xian sect. Pft! The red palm print appeared on the old woman's face. She spat out a mouthful of blood along with her teeth. Her old face was immediately filled with horror. The old woman was furious and resentful. As an elder of the profound underworld sect, she had never been humiliated like this before. However, this time, she was treated in such a manner. She felt extremely ashamed. Slap! A crisp sound rang out again. Another red palm print appeared on the other side of the old woman's face. Blood splattered everywhere and her teeth flew out. She was slapped until she was dizzy. Don't test my patience. With your cultivation level, I can kill you just like that. If you say another word, I will kill you on the spot. Du Xiaofu looked at the old woman and glanced at her indifferently. The invisible aura on his body caused the expressions of all the experts present to freeze. The old woman did not dare to say another word. No one knew if it was because she was angry or because the 2 slaps were too heavy, but blood kept flowing out of her mouth. My profound talisman sect has a good relationship with the demon king, Du Xiaofu. This time, Shui specially said that if the desolate country interferes with the Stone Dragon Empire, the Profound Talisman sect will retreat. The old man from the Profound Talisman sect who had just retreated spoke with a meaningful smile. The Profound Talisman sect can leave. However, the two empires under the Profound Talisman sect will have to compensate the desolate country. Du Xiaofu looked at the old man from the Profound Talisman sect and said to everyone present, the people from the Profound Underworld sect and the Spirit Sky Valley can leave. As for the people from the Sky Snake sect, they can stay as well. Also, I want the 8 empires that besieged the Stone Dragon Empire. What? The moment Du Xiaofu's words came out, the entire place was in an uproar. The faces of the people from the Sky Snake sect changed drastically. Du Xiaofu, you want 8 empires? Asked a middle-aged man from the Spirit Sky Valley. He could not accept Du Xiaofu directly asking for 8 empires. This time, the 4 mountain sects had joined forces for the Stone Dragon Empire. However, Du Xiaofu's appetite was bigger than the 4 mountain sects. He actually wanted 8 empires. That's right. I want all the empires. Du Xiaofu nodded and spoke frankly. What makes you think you can compete with the 4 mountain sects? The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said, even if you kill us today, I'm afraid it will only bring disaster to the desolate country. You destroyed the Stone Dragon Empire and caused countless refugees to flood into the desolate country. In the name of humanitarianism, the desolate country spent countless resources to rescue them. Therefore, you must compensate the 8 empires and me. Du Xiaofu said. He was so domineering that no one could refute him. He looked at the middle-aged man from the Spirit Sky Valley and said, when the time comes, if you want to touch the desolate country, I will accept it. Of course, I will also guarantee that you will regret provoking me. Everyone was stunned. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was simply too domineering. This was clearly a robbery, but he still said it as if it was a righteous act. At this moment, facing the 4 mountain sects, the Demon King Du Xiaofu was not afraid at all. Du Xiaofu, are you challenging the 4 mountain sects? The middle-aged man heard this. After a long time, his eyes twitched and he asked in a deep voice. I'm just informing you. I reckon that by this time, the imperial palaces have already been destroyed. Du Xiaofu was still as indifferent as before. He looked up slightly and there were some fluctuations in his clear eyes. TSK, at the same time, a figure appeared above the imperial palace. It was a middle-aged man with a slightly wretched look. However, his charm was natural. A stream of light shot out from his hand and then appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. It's done. The middle-aged man smiled and then stood beside Du Xiaoqing, watching with interest. Swish, swish, at the same time, there were many whooshing sounds in the surroundings. Nearly 20 figures descended from the sky from all directions. They were the dozen or so extraordinary venerables from the ancient heaven sect. There was also Phantom, Blood Vine Spirit, Shou Sha, and Hun Xie. The 4 of them had also destroyed an imperial palace by themselves. When these figures appeared, the clouds in all directions moved, and the clouds in the sky surged. The ancient heaven sect is interfering. It's the ancient heaven sect's experts. The invisible aura was released into the sky, causing the souls of the people from the Sky Snake sect, Spirit Sky Valley, Stygian sect, and the various empires to tremble. The imperial palace's dragon chi is really difficult to deal with. We almost failed. Phantom said and handed a jade seal to Du Xiaofu. They were called evil spirits in the past and were suppressed by the imperial palace's dragon chi. However, Phantom and the other 3 worked together and finally absorbed the imperial palace's dragon chi. They obtained great benefits and killed the emperor of a kingdom to obtain the jade seal. Whoosh! At the same time, the ancient heaven sect's venerables also threw 5 jade seals to Du Xiaofu. That's the imperial seal of our kingdom. In the crowd, the faces of the elders from the various empires changed. Some of them were the emperors of those empires, while others were the top experts of the imperial family. They could sense the appearance of those jade seals at a glance. Now that the jade seals had left the imperial palace and appeared here, these empire's experts immediately sensed something. Their faces were filled with despair. The emperors of the 8 kingdoms have been killed. Although the Stone Dragon Empire has nothing to do with me, my family is there. Those who touch my family will be killed without mercy. Du Xiaofu shouted, and his voice echoed in the Dragon City. He threw out a jade seal in his hand, and the 8 jade seals immediately revolved around him. Chapter 1019. The emperors of the 8 countries have all been executed. Although the Stone Dragon Empire has nothing to do with me, my family is there. Those who touch my family will be killed without mercy. Du Xiaofu shouted, his voice echoing throughout Dragon City. He threw out the imperial jade seal in his hand, and 8 imperial jade seals immediately circled around him. Rumble. Instantly, 8 monstrous rays of golden light filled the air, emitting multicolored light. They condensed into 8 illusory golden dragons that breathed in and out dragon aura. Roar! In an instant, 8 golden dragons circled in the sky, and they roared with their heads raised. The roars of the dragons were mighty and distant, and they shook the 9 heavens, causing all beasts and souls to tremble in fear and prostrate themselves before them. Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal, our empire has been destroyed. In the crowd, the experts of the 8 countries instantly lost their color, and all of them became dispirited. They never thought that their respective lairs would be uprooted not long after they took over the Stone Dragon Empire. Die! Du Xiaofu stood in the air, and countless purple arcs of lightning surged out, shuttling between the 8 illusory golden dragons. In the end, they turned into bolts of purple lightning that swept down. Bang bang bang! The experts of the 8 countries were instantly enveloped by lightning. Their figures turned into a bloody mist without any suspense, and were blasted into ashes by the purple lightning. Run, quickly jump. The remaining experts of the Sky Snake sect saw that the situation was not good, and immediately fled. No. However, the Sky Snake sect's experts did not even have the time to escape before they let out miserable cries. Soon after, their bodies were blown apart as easily as dried twigs. Under the destructive pressure of the tyrannical golden thunderbolts, their bodies turned into a bloody mist as they were mercilessly killed. Only a dozen experts from the Spirit Sky Valley, the Profound Talisman sect, and the Profound Underworld sect were left. The experts of the 8 countries were all destroyed. The billions of eyes in Dragon City looked up at the scene that happened in the sky above the Imperial Palace. They were shocked into silence. Everything was destroyed, and the experts of the 8 countries were all killed. That was the Demon King Du Xiaofu's tyrannical killing style. Even if he was facing a venerable realm expert from the 9 great powers, he would not hesitate to directly and mercilessly kill them. High up in the sky, the eyes of the ancient heaven sect's experts trembled. The sharpness and overbearingness caused one's expression to involuntarily change. Du Xiaofu stood quietly. His eyes had regained their clarity on his resolute and determined face. However, at this moment, there was a great majesty around him. The imperial jade seal circled around him, leaking the imperial palace's dragon chi. 8 golden dragons coiled in the void around Du Xiaofu, prostrating themselves in awe, as if they were facing a supreme emperor among men. What a terrifying brat! Even the imperial palace's dragon chi has to bow before him. Is this brat the demon king or Jizun? Within the ancient heaven sect, 2 venerable realm experts who were of the same generation as Elder Gu Qingyang were shocked. This brat is not someone to be trifled with. It's a pity that even the ancient heaven sect master position could not keep him. Otherwise, I'm afraid that one day, he could really bring our ancient heaven sect to new heights. Another venerable realm expert of the ancient heaven sect sighed. Withdraw. The 8 golden dragons were withdrawn by Du Xiaofu, turning into 8 imperial jade seals. In the end, they were all taken into Du Xiaofu's hands. Looking at the remaining experts from the Spirit Heaven Valley, the Profound Talisman sect, and the Profound Underworld sect, who were still in shock, Du Xiaofu said calmly with majesty, "You can leave now. From now on, the 8 countries have nothing to do with you. They all belong to the desolate country. Those who offend the desolate country will be killed without mercy." The old woman from the Heavenly Snake sect stared at Du Xiaofu. She trembled under the immense pressure and the intimidation just now. She didn't dare to say another word. With a vicious look in her eyes, she leaped away. "The Spirit Heaven Valley will take our leave. However, we will definitely seek justice from the desolate country for this matter," the middle-aged expert from the Spirit Heaven Valley said. Then, he led the other experts from the Spirit Heaven Valley and left helplessly. The situation was hopeless, and there were more than 10 venerable realm experts from the Ancient Heaven sect here. The Spirit Heaven Valley did not dare to stay any longer. It was obvious that the Ancient Heaven sect had sent out more than 10 venerable realm experts to support Du Xiaofu. "The Profound Talisman sect will also take our leave. We will give the 2 empires to the desolate country." The old man from the Profound Talisman sect smiled. Then, he said that he did not want the 2 empires anymore. "This is the compensation from the Profound Talisman sect, not a gift," Du Xiaofu said bluntly. Then, he said to the old man, "Send my regards to Miss Zhu Shui." "I will." The old man nodded. There was a complicated look in his eyes. Then, he led the other experts from the Profound Talisman sect and left. In an instant, they disappeared in mid-air. The emperors of the 8 empires have been executed. The armies of the 8 empires will be captured. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy," Du Xiaofu shouted. His voice swept across the Dragon City, causing the armies of the 8 empires to tremble. Just his voice alone was enough to make their souls tremble. "Surrender, I surrender." Immediately, the armies of the 8 empires surrendered. They did not dare to resist. On this day, the last experts of the 8 empires were killed, along with the venerable realm expert from the Sky Snake sect. The news spread and shook the entire world. It was rumored that the desolate country's rock emperor, Du Xiaofu, came to the Dragon City and killed the experts of the 8 empires by himself. He slapped the venerable realm expert of the Xianming sect and scared the experts of the other sects away. That kind of overbearing and murderous aura, the Demon King lived up to his name. The Rock Emperor is avenging the Stone Dragon Empire. It is rumored that the desolate country has already swept away the remaining forces of the 8 empires. They are unstoppable. It is only a matter of time before they take control of the 8 empires. The Stone Dragon Empire has been destroyed. The Rock Emperor is still part of the Du family of the Stone Dragon Empire. In the past 2 years, the desolate country has protected the Stone Dragon Empire a lot. It is only right for them to take control of the Stone Dragon Empire. The Stone Dragon Empire should join the desolate country. In the next few days, the news of the Tianhu Empire and the other 8 empires being swept away spread. Some experts suddenly appeared and killed the experts of the cities before leaving. Then, the desolate country's army entered the 8 empires. Wherever they passed, they swept away everything. Blood flowed like rivers as they took control of the cities. The 8 empires had vast territories. It was only a matter of time before the desolate country took control of the 8 empires. No one would be able to obstruct the desolate country's army anymore. Desolate country, Stone City, Du family. The 8 empires have been destroyed. It is only a matter of time. What do you plan to do? Zhen Qingchun asked Du Xiaofu. The 8 empires had been destroyed. It was only a matter of time before the desolate country took control of everything. Take control of the desolate country. Du Xiaofu's eyes shone brightly. He would not share the benefits of destroying the 8 empires with others. He would take control of the 8 empires. Recently, the desolate country had taken control of the 8 empires and thousands of prefectures. Other than the prefectures that were originally big cities, they lacked experts to control them. Du Yunlong, Big Sister Du Xiaoman, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Mysterious Dragon King, Chao Yu, Huafan Kong, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Golden Python and other experts from the World Society in Heavenly Beast Hall came out. What about the original Stone Dragon Empire? Zhen Qingchun asked. Return to the desolate country. Du Xiaofu seemed to have made a decision and nodded slightly. Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu, the dragon veins of the 8 empires and the Stone Dragon Empire have been destroyed. They need to be rebuilt. The desolate country still lacks an imperial seal. You have to prepare to refine it. I am not familiar with these. Du Xiaofu looked at Zhen Qingchun with a pleading look. Rebuilding the dragon veins and refining the imperial seal were all things Du Xiaofu was not familiar with. Rebuilding the dragon veins is quite a big task, but I can do it. Zhen Qingchun looked at Du Xiaofu and said, however, it is not the best choice to refine the imperial seal. Although the materials are hard to find, it is not impossible to find them. It is just that the imperial seal contains the great fortune of a country and the power of faith of a country. It is nourished by the dragon aura of the imperial palace. Everything needs to start from scratch. It needs time to reach a certain level. There is no way to speed it up. The Golden Dragon Imperial Seal of the Stone Dragon Empire has been around for thousands of years. It is a true treasure. Unfortunately, its whereabouts are unknown. If you can directly fuse with the Golden Dragon Imperial Seal of the Stone Dragon Empire, you will be able to guard the dragon veins with half the effort. Zhen Qingchun continued. I still have these 8 imperial seals. Can they become new ones? Du Xiaofu frowned and summoned the 8 imperial seals he obtained from the 8 empires. Golden light surrounded his body and released a terrifying pressure. These imperial seals cannot be compared to the Golden Dragon Imperial Seal of the Stone Dragon Empire. They are much weaker. Zhen Qingchun shook his head and continued to say to Du Xiaofu, moreover, these imperial seals have been nourished by the dragon aura of the imperial palace. They contain the long-lasting fortune of a country and are worshipped by millions of citizens. They gather the dragon aura of the empire. There is a mysterious power and endless fortune that is fused with the heaven and earth. It is not something an ordinary talisman master can refine. No matter how powerful a talisman master is, he can refine the shape of the Golden Dragon Imperial Seal, but he cannot refine the mysterious power of the soul inside the seal. It needs countless years of nourishment from the imperial palace and the fate of a country to contain the pressure of the heaven and earth. So, I can only refine a new imperial seal and slowly nourish it. Du Xiaofu frowned. The Golden Dragon Imperial Seal was indeed a treasure that could guard a country and suppress the dragon veins. It was the last thing a country could rely on. He had to pay attention to it. There is an expert coming to Stone City. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, Zhen Qingchun's eyes suddenly trembled. He sensed that a strong cultivator had come to the Stone City. Zhen Qingchun felt the aura of the expert and his expression turned serious. Chapter 1020. It's my master, the revered artifact. Du Xiaofu smiled. The aura descended on Stone City, and he probed with his mind. Under the familiar aura, Du Xiaofu didn't see the person, but he knew who had come to Stone City. After a while, an old man in his 50s with long black hair and a red robe appeared in the sky above Stone City. The old man had a wide forehead and a square face, and there seemed to be lightning flashing deep in his eyes. Then, he disappeared into the Du family. Greetings, master. In the side hall of the courtyard, Du Xiaofu bowed. It was the revered artifact master, Xiahou Fenlei. Greetings, senior revered artifact. Your name was like thunder in my ears. Today, I finally see you in person. Zhen Qingchuan's eyes were full of respect. When he made his debut, the revered artifact's name had already spread throughout Central State and Spirit Realm. I've also heard of the Saint Array prodigy. In the path of cultivation, the one who reaches the top is first. There's no need to be polite. The revered artifact smiled. Zhen Qingchuan's aura naturally couldn't escape his probing. A half-domain level cultivation was one of the top experts in Central State. In the path of cultivation, the one who reaches the top is first. But senior revered artifact has already taken that step, and I'm still a little behind. Zhen Qingchun smiled. He felt the aura of the revered artifact, and it couldn't escape his probing. The revered artifact had already taken that step. Master, you've reached 9-star. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu seemed to have understood something. He could feel that the aura of his master, the weapon sovereign, had changed again. His eyes immediately lit up with joy. The 9-star level was equivalent to the martial domain realm. I've finally reached it in 2 years. The revered artifact nodded with a smile and didn't deny it. Du Xiaofu was pleasantly surprised. His master had reached 9-star again, which meant that the 7-star hull's strength had greatly increased. Then, he asked curiously, Master, why are you here in Stone City? I received news that you've reached the revered realm in the ancient heaven sect and returned to Stone City. The 7-star hull is also paying attention to the situation in the barren country. I'm afraid that you'll be in trouble, so I came, said the revered artifact. Thank you, Master. Du Xiaofu felt warmth in his heart. He knew that his master was worried about him. The 7-star hull knew about the situation in the desolate country. Naturally, they also knew that the Tianhu Empire was backed by the Sky Serpent sect and the other 3 mountain sections. That was why they came personally. It's good that you're fine. I heard that you've already broken through to the Zun stage in the ancient heaven sect. The weapon master smiled. He had already sensed the aura of his disciple. Of course, he knew what it meant to have such a young martial venerable and an 8-star talisman master. Subsequently, Du Xiaofu, Zhen Qingchun, and weapon venerable Xiahou Fenglei talked about recent events, including the Imperial Jade Seal and the Dragon Vein. Venerable Weapon's eyes flickered as he whispered to Du Xiaofu, to rebuild the Dragon Vein, we need the Imperial Jade Seal to suppress the Dragon Vein and become the core of the Dragon Vein. Refining another Imperial Jade Seal to nourish the Dragon Vein is too time-consuming, and there are many inconveniences and delays. The 8 Imperial Jade Seals are the old seals of the 8 countries. If we refine them and combine them into one, not only will its power increase greatly, but it will also be easier to integrate into the Dragon Vein and connect with the 8 countries. But Master, the Imperial Jade Seals are difficult to refine. It will be even more difficult to combine them into one, Du Xiaofu said with a frown. Indeed, the 8 old seals have been nourished by the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. They have gathered the faith and sacrifice of the country and absorbed the fate of the country. An ordinary talisman master will not be able to refine them. The revered weapon nodded. He then smiled at Du Xiaofu and said, but I can do it. The 3,000 jolting thunders I have can refine the Imperial Jade Seal. It won't be a problem for me to merge 8 into one. After a short pause, the revered weapon continued, however, this is not the best way. As far as I know, there is another way, but that way is too risky. Ordinary people can't bear it at all. Unless you are a real king among men, you can't bear such great luck. What other way? Du Xiaofu asked curiously. The owner of the Imperial Jade Seal receives the mandate of heaven. The Imperial Jade Seal is the most important thing in the country. But it is said that the heart of the Dragon Vein is not necessarily the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. Venerable Weapon said, it is recorded in the ancient books that in the ancient times, there was a supreme Imperial Jade Seal. It was a life weapon that was used as the foundation to bear the fate of the country. The great fortune of heaven and earth was added to the body, and it could bring great benefits. Later on, there were emperors who tried to imitate it, but none of them succeeded. They were all destroyed by the heavenly might. Du Xiaofu fell into deep thought. He had obtained the imperial palace's dragon qi and knew its benefits. It could even enhance the great fortune of heaven and earth. If he did not give it a try, he would regret it. He raised his head and said to revered weapon, "Master, I would like to give it a try." "Are you sure? It could be extremely dangerous." Venerable weapon focused. Using the life weapon to refine the imperial jade seal, the great fortune of heaven and earth was not something ordinary people could bear. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Du Xiaofu's eyes were firm. He had made up his mind. Then try it. You are extraordinary. Maybe you really have a chance to succeed. Venerable weapon nodded. His disciple was not ordinary and had a chance to succeed. The reason why the venerated weapon proposed this method was because he hoped that his disciple would be able to obtain great benefits from it. In the end, the three discussed and decided to refine a new imperial jade seal. Du Xiaofu's life weapon was the Tyrant Shadow. He planned to refine the 8 imperial jade seals and merge them with the Tyrant Shadow to create a new imperial jade seal. Zhen Qingchun would build a new dragon vein to gather the dragon veins of the 10 countries and gather the great fortune of the 10 countries. And all of this would take time. It could not be done in a short time. In the Stone City, the construction of the imperial palace began. The army of the barren country and the demonic beasts of the celestial beast hall were mobilized. Time passed slowly. In the Stone Dragon Empire, the clamor for the barren country grew louder and louder. The Rock Emperor had killed the experts of the 8 countries, intimidated the 4 mountain sects, and killed the emperors of the 8 countries. This made the Stone Dragon Empire, which had just been destroyed, boil over. In addition to what the barren country had done to the Stone Dragon Empire in the past 2 years, the people had long submitted. At the right time, place, and people, the clamor for the Stone Dragon Empire to submit to the barren country grew louder and louder. No one objected. In the Stone Dragon Empire, in hundreds of cities, there were people who jointly petitioned to join the barren country. In the quiet courtyard of the Du family, Du Xiaofu met the North Vanquishing King, the South Vanquishing King, the East Vanquishing King, and the other kings. Your wish has been fulfilled and your revenge has been avenged. Child, I thank you on behalf of the Stone Dragon Empire. The North Vanquishing King's eyes were moist. He had already known everything. Grandpa Xie, old kings, the Stone Dragon Empire no longer exists. I want to change it to the barren country. What do you think? Du Xiaofu asked the crowd. These old kings and kings were not ordinary in his heart. The Stone Dragon Empire has been destroyed long ago. You have destroyed the other 8 countries. Naturally, it should be yours, said Ouyang Ling. North Vanquishing Prince looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Kid, just do it. I've already said that we'll support you with all our strength. You're justified this time. You don't need to worry about what others say. Many thanks. Du Xiaofu nodded and left. There was one last thing he needed to do. The curtain of night covered the sky. The vast Lanling Prefecture city was completely shrouded in the night. After the Stone Dragon Empire was destroyed, the Lanling Prefecture city had also been engulfed in the flames of war. However, after the 8 countries were destroyed, the flames of war had already dissipated. Inside the Lanling Prefecture city, in an old mansion, a woman stood quietly in the courtyard under the moonlight. Her long eyelashes fluttered and her eyes were like limpid autumn water. It was very moving. Chapter 10:21. After a long time, the woman turned around, intending to return to the courtyard. Chi! Suddenly, the space fluctuated a little, and a purple-robed young man appeared in the woman's line of sight. The purple-robed young man had a resolute and determined face. His eyes were clear, but there was a hidden sharpness. He was only 22 or 23 years old, but his aura made people's hearts tremble. Looking at the purple-robed young man who suddenly appeared in front of her, Moron Yorua's long eyelashes fluttered. Her eyes were filled with surprise and complicated emotions, but she soon calmed down. Do I need a woman to bear the responsibility for everything I do? Du Xiaofu asked, looking at Moron Yorua. In order to pave the way, she would bear the responsibility alone. Looking at the purple-robed young man in front of her, Moron Yorua's watery eyes could vaguely see the figure of the purple-robed young man from back then. Back then, it was from the hidden sharpness in his eyes that she could feel that this young man was different from Guokun and the others. She was not wrong. In just a few years, the purple-robed young man before her had grown to the point where he could shake the entire central province. It's not that you don't want the Stone Dragon Empire. You didn't want it back then because you didn't want to be indebted to others. You needed to take it down yourself. You needed a great path. I'm just doing what I should do. I'm just retreating, said Moron Yorua. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes were filled with spiritual light. Her complicated gaze was quietly restrained. A gentle wind blew gently, and her hair danced. How big is the Stone Dragon Empire? Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in front of him. He slowly approached her and said, the 8 countries have been destroyed. Moron Yorua's eyes moved slightly. She revealed a smile with an ancient aura. She was as beautiful as a fairy who had walked out of a painting. She said, it seems that I've been thinking too much. I only see the Stone Dragon Empire. What you want are the 8 countries. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible. Du Xiaofu said, the world society can't do without you. I'm here to invite you back. Moron Yorua shook her head and said, I can't go back. I sent a fake edict and have been expelled from the world society. If I go back, you won't be able to answer to the desolate country. The entire desolate country is mine. Who do you think I need to answer to? Du Xiaofu looked at the girl in front of him. He still remembered the first time he saw her. Under her temperament, there seemed to be something stirring in his heart, stirring up his feelings. Hearing this, Moron Yorua was speechless. He was still so domineering. The entire desolate country was his, so who else did he have to explain himself to? I'm here to invite you back. Elder Yi is still in seclusion and you're leaving too. Do you really have the heart to not help me? Even if it's for Xingyu's sake, you can't not help me. Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at the woman in front of her. She knew how to make her go back. You are now the young hall master of the 7-star hall, the emperor of the barren nation, and the president of the world society. How can you still be so indecent? Moron Yorua helplessly smiled. On that resolute face, there was a trace of the rascality of a big boy. That clear and deep gaze caused some ripples in her heart. She couldn't help but think of the charming healing back then. Her mind was in a strange state of mind, and a barely visible blush crept up her cheeks under the moonlight. In a month's time, the Tianhu Empire and the other 8 countries were all under the control of the desolate country. Under the iron and blood method, they were all under control. In the Stone City, a vast palace was born a month later. The palace was carved with dragons and painted with phoenixes, and the doors were wide and red pillars. Looking up, one could see many palaces, and there was no end in sight. The palace was dazzling with gold and jade, with a golden roof and red doors. It exuded an ancient charm, giving people a sense of solemnity. The Du family remained untouched and remained in the center of the palace, including the barren mountain that had become a treasure land. It was full of vitality, and multicolored light soared into the sky. Under the moonlight shrouded the sky. Whoosh! A purple-robed figure appeared in the back mountain of the Du family, looking at the palace around him. The palace was carved with dragons, golden scales, and golden armor. They were vivid and lifelike, as if they wanted to soar into the sky. The golden glazed roof tiles shone with a dazzling light under the moonlight, just like golden islands. Pust! A figure appeared beside the purple-robed youth. His gray robe fluttered slightly, and his aura was soul-stirring. Congratulations, Elder Yi, for making another breakthrough. Du Xiaofu turned around and smiled. It was the medicine king Yi Wuming, who had been in seclusion for a long time. At this moment, Yi Wuming's aura was already in the midst of a breakthrough. Congratulations to you too, for unifying the 10 nations. Yi Wuming smiled. Du Xiaofu looked directly at the medicine king, and on his determined face, his clear eyes shone with a golden glow under the moonlight. He said, "Back then, I promised Elder Yi that within 5 years, the world would conquer the 10 nations for you. Now, there are 10 nations in total, although it will be a little later. You have already done it. Back then, I only wanted you to conquer an empire within 5 years." Medicine King Yi Wuming looked at Du Xiaofu and said with a faint smile, "I didn't misjudge you. Thank you for everything you have done over the years, Elder Yi. In the future, the barren nation will still rely on you." Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at Yi Wuming. He smiled and said, "I am very grateful. I actually didn't do anything. Instead, I obtained a lot of great opportunities," Yi Wuming said softly. He knew what he had obtained over the years. "Kid, get ready." In the middle of the palace, there was a towering golden hall, and a voice sounded. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu darted out and entered the hall. In the spacious hall, the stone dragon was entrenched on the stone pillars, and it was dazzling. Zhen Qingchun condensed a handprint in his hand, and an invisible energy was released. He quietly disappeared into the space. Rumble, at this moment, outside the barren nation, the stone dragon empire was shaking. At the same time, the Tianhu Empire was shaking, and the tides were rising. In the Zhenhong Empire, there was thunder and lightning, and the clouds were surging. In the sky above the 9 original empires, there were terrifying runes soaring into the sky. In the end, they were invisibly connected to the sky, and there was a faint trace of mystery between them. "Build the dragon vein!" Zhen Qingchun shouted. Terrifying runes burst out from his body and finally soared into the sky, shaking the hall. The whole stone city was filled with thunder, and the earth was shaking. A terrifying rune light column spread out, and it seemed to be connected to the 9 dazzling runes in the sky. In the moonlit night, above the sky, a terrifying scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The whole barren nation was suddenly in turmoil, and the earth was shaking. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky, and the faintly spreading terrifying pressure made everyone's expression change. That was the momentum of heaven and earth, and the pressure of heaven and earth was descending. "Xiaofu, the new seal has been completed. The next step is up to you. Connect the dragon vein, and use the new seal to suppress the eye of the dragon vein. Open up the great fortune of the new nation, and the imperial power must be bestowed by heaven." The voice of the weapon lord came out, and a golden light shone in his hand, and he threw it to Du Xiaofu. The 8 imperial seals were refined, and the tyrant shadow was remade. Roar! On the tyrant shadow, the dragon roared endlessly. Du Xiaofu held the tyrant shadow tightly. At this time, the shadow of a golden dragon was entrenched on the tyrant shadow, and the golden light was like a rising sun, with a mysterious and ancient aura. On the tyrant shadow, the light rose as if it was affecting heaven and earth, and the pressure spread throughout the entire stone city. So powerful! Du Xiaofu was stunned. At this moment, the tyrant's shadow radiated with radiance, as if it could resonate with the heavens and earth, forming an extremely powerful and majestic force. It was almost comparable to the heavenly palace of purple gold. What's going on? What a strong aura, it's too strong. The whole stone city trembled, and countless people walked out, looking at the palace with trembling eyes. Look, it's the Rock Emperor. Someone immediately saw a familiar figure holding a golden sword above the palace. It was the Rock Emperor of the barren country. High up in the sky, Du Xiaofu's hand seals were formed, and the tyrant shadow was filled with golden light. As the hand seals changed, Du Xiaofu's body was filled with light, invisibly connecting with the tyrant shadow, and finally with the dazzling runes in the sky. Rumble, immediately, the entire sky began to rumble and tremble. Endless energy filled the sky, and then the space distorted. Finally, under countless shocked gazes, it turned into the shadow of a golden dragon. Roar, 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 at the same time, in the distance of the night sky, there were endless dragon roars, and a total of 9 golden dragon shadows soared into the sky, exuding an ancient and terrifying aura. 10 golden dragons coiled in the sky, and finally, under countless shocked gazes, they condensed into a giant golden dragon shadow that was thousands of feet long. An earth-shattering dragon roar resounded between heaven and earth. Roar, the giant golden dragon that was thousands of feet long seemed to cover the sky as it coiled in the sky. Its power was enough to destroy everything, and it was comparable to a real dragon. What a terrifying aura! Building the dragon veins of the 10 nations, borrowing the chi of heaven and earth, each new generation surpasses the previous one. No wonder he's called a prodigy of the sacred array. In mid-air, the weapon master quietly appeared in the void. Looking at the 10,000-meter-long illusory golden dragon that was entrenched in the sky, his fiery eyes were full of admiration. Roar! The 1,000-foot-long golden dragon shadow roared at Du Xiaofu, as if it wanted to suppress Du Xiaofu. A terrifying aura was released, causing countless people to gasp. Du Xiaofu looked up, his purple robe fluttering, and his body was wrapped in golden light. With the tyrant shadow in his hand, he was fearless of the giant golden dragon. Instead of retreating, he moved forward, step by step. Chapter 1022. Roar, the 1,000-foot-long golden dragon's roar shook the clouds. Golden light shone brightly and twisted the void. It contained a mysterious power. Endless fate energy blended with heaven and earth as if it could resonate with heaven and earth. It formed a powerful and majestic force that wanted to stop Du Xiaofu. Under such a terrifying aura, it was as if heaven's fate energy was overwhelming. All the creatures in the surroundings trembled. Countless people turned pale and their bodies trembled. Under such terrifying power, Du Xiaofu held his head high and walked forward fearlessly. Mysterious runes began to flicker in his body and covered his entire body. A magnificent and desolate aura spread out from his body. The majestic and desolate aura made people feel as if they were facing a king that couldn't be resisted. A domineering killing intent rippled through the sky, and an aura that made people's souls palpitate made all living beings feel fear. Boom, immediately, the entire sky was filled with thunderclouds, and the rumbling of thunder could be heard without end. The 1,000-foot-long golden dragon's shadow suddenly stopped. It didn't dare to approach under the magnificent and desolate aura. Du Xiaofu strode out in a domineering manner, looking disdainfully in all directions. The 1,000-foot-long golden dragon roared with fear in its eyes. In the end, it began to prostrate before Du Xiaofu in front of countless trembling eyes. Suppress. Du Xiaofu stepped on the head of the golden dragon's shadow. In the magnificent and desolate aura, there was an unparalleled domineering aura. Stepping on the golden dragon, lightning flashed in his eyes. The tyrant shadow in his hand pierced into the dragon's head. The rolling golden light was immediately devoured by the sword. Roar, countless dragon roars came out from the tyrant shadow and devoured the huge golden dragon's shadow. Countless people were shocked. At this moment, a terrifying aura gathered on Du Xiaofu's body. It was the aura of a supreme being, as if he was the supreme being of heaven and earth. How can this guy's aura be so powerful? Even the dragon vein is prostrating. In the sky, the scene also surprised the revered weapon. It's not strange. Back in the Stone Dragon Empire, the dragon Chi in the palace was already prostrating. The dragon vein came from heaven and earth and was the most hierarchical. It would submit to gods, sages, and supreme beings. Zhen Qingchun smiled and said to Venerable Weapon. That guy shouldn't be a sage, right? Then he can only be the reincarnation of a god or a supreme being. The Honorable Weapon's eyes flickered. Then, he smiled and said, it seems like I was worried for nothing. With a life weapon as the seal, this won't be a problem for him. Whether he is the reincarnation of a deity, a supreme being, or something else, he can handle the great fortune of heaven and earth. The 10 nations have been unified, and the name of the nation is Desolate. Those who cause trouble in my desolate nation will be killed. Anyone who dares to touch my desolate country will be killed. Du Xiaofu held the tyrant's shadow in his hand as he spoke. Above the tyrant's shadow, there was an illusory golden dragon that moved. Its voice was like a dragon's roar, shaking the heavens and earth. That aura was like 10,000 thunderbolts, resonating and shaking the 9 heavens. The purple-robed young man was shrouded in golden light. Around him, illusory images of golden dragons circled in the air. It was like a holy relic. Heavenly might filled the air, as if a sovereign was descending upon the world. That terrifying might caused everyone's expression to change and they trembled. Greetings, Rock Emperor. Inside and outside the stone city, countless people knelt down. Under the domineering might of a sovereign descending upon the world, they could not help but tremble. At this moment, the void was filled with golden light. Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by lightning and the illusory golden dragon was entrenched. It looked like a holy relic descending upon the world. In the vast sky, a mysterious and mighty force seeped out from heaven and earth. Finally, it gathered in the stone city's imperial palace. Du Xiaofu released his mind and connected with the dragon vein. At this moment, he could feel that everything in the 10 nations was invisibly connected. On this day, the 10 nations were unified. There was a strange phenomenon in the stone city, and heavenly might descended. The Rock Emperor descended upon the world and was recorded in the annals of history. When the news spread, the middle ground was shaken, and the name of the desolate nation spread throughout the middle ground. The demon king, Du Xiaofu, was a supreme being. The disciples of the Great Will sect dared to kill him, and the Sky Snake sect supremacy experts were instantly killed. At such a young age, it was said that he was already a martial supremacy. With the appearance of the desolate nation, the name of the demon king Du Xiaofu spread throughout the central state once again. Within the barren nation, there were pardons and conferments. The holy array prodigy of Zhen Qingchun, the imperial advisor of the barren nation, Medicine King Yi Wuming, was not only a consecrator of the world society, he was also conferred the title of Duke Zhenghua. The North Vanquishing Prince, South Vanquishing Prince, West Vanquishing Prince, East Vanquishing Prince, and other kings of the Stone Dragon Empire were still the kings of the barren nation. The North Vanquishing Prince, South Vanquishing Prince, West Vanquishing Prince, and East Vanquishing Prince were still the kings of the barren nation. The North Vanquishing Prince, Xia Tianhong, was the first king. The Solitary Sword King, the Golden Condor King, the Mysterious Dragon King, the Stone Turtle King and many other experts had already reached the emperor level, but they were still bestowed with the title of king by the desolate country. There were a total of 64 Iron Hat Kings and 1,008 Iron Hat Marquises. They were all bestowed with the title of emperor. Among them, the most surprising thing was that Murong Yorua had been appointed by Emperor Long Feng to become the first prime minister of the desolate country. She had taken charge of the new seal on behalf of the Great Rock Emperor. Her status was even higher than that of the first Iron Hat Crown Prince. Anyone with a discerning eye knew that this was the Rock Emperor declaring his position to the outside world. No one in the Du clan dared to say anything. Although the group of elders did not understand, no one dared to be dissatisfied. It was not difficult for the Du clan members who had targeted and suspected Murong Yorua to understand the Great Rock Emperor's intentions. Not long after the appearance of the desolate country, Zhu Shui of the Profound Talisman sect personally came to the desolate country. Later on, some people saw the Rock Emperor and Zhu Shui of the Profound Talisman sect appear alone in the Savage Beast mountain range. It was enough to show that the two of them had an extraordinary relationship. It was likely that the desolate country and the Profound Talisman sect no longer held grudges. Back when the Sky Snake sect's experts were all killed, the Sky Snake sect declared that they would make the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, pay the price. However, they did not do anything in the end. The Profound Underworld sect and Spirit Sky Valley did not make any moves, as if they had forgotten about it. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. It was another month. The desolate country was unified. The remaining matters were only a matter of time. Murong Yorua, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Li Shui, Guo Kuan, Han Xian, and the others were all able to handle it. During this month, Du Xiaofu oversaw the central hall of the Imperial Palace. It was named the Golden Rock Hall. It was the place where the dragon veins gathered. It nourished the Imperial Palace's draconic aura. With the overbearing shadow guarding it, he comprehended the profound and absorbed the Imperial Palace's draconic aura. At dusk, the radiant sun slowly penetrated the thin clouds. The sunset spread, and the clouds covered half the sky. Each layer was fainter than the previous one, enveloping the entire stone city. Walala. In the Savage Beast mountain range, Du Xiaofu was practicing his fist technique on a towering mountain peak. Fist imprints condensed in Du Xiaofu's hands, outlining the space in front of him. Then, he continuously punched out with his palm. Du Xiaofu's figure was like a god, changing unpredictably. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu's fist technique was extremely simple. If there are worries in the heart, there will be worries and fetters. If there are forms of fists and palms, there will be flaws. Follow the heart, release the heart, and use strength to break through all techniques. Du Xiaofu punched out one fist after another as he murmured softly. Those seemingly simple punches and palms were seen by a true expert at this moment. Only then would they understand that the simple changes in the punches and palms contained great mysteries. Du Xiaofu's punches and palms became more and more overbearing and fierce. On the mountain peak, muffled sounds were constantly heard. Du Xiaofu's figure leaped as he punched out with his palms. He was like a ferocious beast or a divine bird. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's body paused for a moment, as if he had thought of something. Golden light suddenly shone from his clear eyes, and an incomparably domineering aura abruptly spread out from his tall and straight body. Boom! The aura swept out and the mountain peak trembled and cracked. Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed again. That terrifying aura was like a peerless ferocious beast or a divine bird that wanted to soar into the sky. He suddenly condensed a fist in his hand and slammed it down on the mountain peak under his feet. Roar! This punch was faintly accompanied by a dragon's roar and a divine elephant's cry, causing the surrounding void to rumble. High in the sky, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The aura was incomparably overbearing, looking down on all living things. Rumble, the punch with a domineering aura fell fiercely. Starting from the peak of the mountain, the towering mountain peak suddenly cracked and exploded. The terrifying energy turned into runic ripples, like a tsunami, suddenly sweeping out in the void. On the surrounding mountain peaks, rocks exploded, suddenly shaking and collapsing. Towering trees broke, rocks turned into fine powder, cracks spread on the ground, and gullies appeared on the ground as if it was destroyed. This space shook violently. The invisible overbearing aura shook the space, causing spatial ripples to roll over and over. Between heaven and earth, it suddenly seemed like endless thunder. Monstrous energy instantly exploded, and an extremely terrifying energy storm swept out in an instant. Roar! In the depths of the barbaric beast mountain range, countless demonic beasts roared and hissed, revealing fear. When everything calmed down, the surrounding area had been completely destroyed. I finally succeeded. From now on, I'll call it Overbearing Fist Dao. Du Xiaofu stood in the void, looking at the large mountain range that he had just destroyed, with a smile on his face. Under the foundation and guidance of the hegemon sword way, he had comprehended the hegemon fist way from the mysterious move he had comprehended from the first stone tablet outside the Du family. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu raised his head, looking in the direction of the stone city, and his face suddenly changed. There are experts coming, and they don't come with good intentions. Du Xiaofu frowned, and his figure suddenly swept across the sky, disappearing in an instant. Under the setting sun, the curtain of night approached. In the sunset, there was a slight distortion in the space, and then from the distorted space, there were dozens of figures slowly stepping out. When the dozens of figures stepped out, not many people paid attention to them. They were clearly in the void, but it was as if they were blurred in front of their eyes. The dozens of figures swept across the surroundings, and then directly stepped into the void towards the stone city's imperial palace. Their bodies were wrapped in dazzling light, and the halo was as dazzling as the sun, with an ancient and terrifying aura rippling. Du Xiaofu, come with us. Among the dozens of dazzling figures, a figure walked out, with a terrifying aura rippling, and a rumbling sound like a drum. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.